In a world where magic was integral to daily life, there existed a ridiculously strong boy named Mashle, whose very existence defied the natural order. He lived in isolation in a forest hut with his father, Burnedead. One day, upon returning home, Mashle accidentally broke the door, forgetting whether to push or pull it. This upset Burnedead, though Mashle apologized and promised to fix it. His attempt to reattach it only made the damage worse by pounding it against the frame. Afterwards, they shared tea. During this, it was revealed that Mashle was different from others because he couldn't use magic. Burnedead had been training him physically to compensate, though Mashle was unaware of this reason and often wondered about his purely physical regimen. Burnedead left the hut, warning Mashle not to venture into the city. However, immediately after his father departed, Mashle put on a cloak and ran to the city, longing to try a limited edition cream puff from a bakery. As he walked through the city, Mashle observed people using magic for mundane tasks, which he found unremarkable as the same things could be done by hand. He reached the bakery and excitedly ordered cream puffs. When paying, he discovered all his coins were bent from having clenched his fist in his excitement. The baker remarked that the coins shouldn't bend so easily, so Mashle straightened them back to their original form, which shocked the baker. After a moment, Mashle received his food. A gust of wind blew his cloak, revealing his face to the public. The crowd was surprised to see he had no magical marks on his face. Meanwhile, at the police station, an officer named Brad read a newspaper about that year's Divine Visionary, a title given to the top student of the Magic Academy that came with promotions and rewards. He was then informed about a man with no facial mark walking in the city. As Mashle wandered the streets, he noticed everyone staring at him but continued eating his cream puffs. He bumped into a drunk officer named Terry, getting cream on his uniform and angering him. Terry knocked the food from Mashle's hands and began berating him. In response, Mashle ripped off Terry's uniform, explaining he intended to wash it for him. At that moment, Brad arrived, questioning why Terry was naked. Brad recognized Mashle as the man from the report and approached him. Suddenly, Burnedead appeared, grabbed his son, and fled. Brad summoned a magical bird to pursue them. Upon returning home, Burnedead scolded Mashle for disobeying him and going to the city. He eventually forgave his son but punished him by making him repeat his workout routine. As Mashle left to train, Burnedead reflected that Mashle was a good kid and he couldn't blame him for his curiosity, having spent his life hidden in the forest. Burnedead then considered how to deal with the police, noticing Brad's bird watching from the window. Brad suddenly arrived with his men, demanding to know Mashle's whereabouts. Mashle was seen training in the woods, lifting immense weights effortlessly and completing his routine in 5 minutes. He headed back but, upon reaching the door, heard Brad explaining to Burnedead that magic had flourished by eliminating those who couldn't use it, a necessary sacrifice for a better world. Brad accused Burnedead of sheltering an unmarked person, a serious offense. Burnedead refused to reveal his son's location. In a flashback, it was shown that Burnedead had always been treated as a failure, a feeling that persisted into adulthood and led him to consider taking his own life. He then heard a baby, Mashle, crying and discovered the infant had been abandoned for having no mark. Feeling they were both unwanted by society, Burnedead decided to raise the baby as his own. Back in the present, Burnedead screamed for Mashle to run. Brad began beating Burnedead, but as he was about to finish him off, Mashle burst through the door, hitting one officer and blowing him away. Terry attacked Mashle, who ripped his uniform off and slapped him repeatedly until he fell. Mashle declared he didn't run because Burnedead was his only family. Brad laughed, stating Mashle stood no chance without magic, and attacked with a spell once used to drive away a dragon. Mashle easily deflected it with one hand, shocking Brad. Brad conjured an even stronger spell, but Mashle slapped it away, causing it to explode elsewhere. Terry continued his magical assault while Mashle deflected, seemingly having fun. Mashle took his father's wand. Brad defended with a barrier, thinking Mashle would use magic, but Mashle threw the wand, breaking the barrier and forcing Brad to his knees. Mashle threatened to kill him if he ever threatened his family again. Brad then proposed a deal: Mashle would enroll in a magic academy and become a divine visionary so society would accept him. Brad claimed he would back Mash because he wanted the associated reward, and warned that if they refused, they would be hunted forever. Mash agreed. He went to the prestigious Easton Magic Academy with a fake mark on his face to take the notoriously difficult entrance exam, which had a passing rate of less than 3%. A man named Dot watched the applicants gathered on the field, recognizing some faces. He was startled by a loud noise and saw Mash lifting weights like they were paper, confused as to why he was working out there. Dot composed himself and looked again, seeing Mash reading a fitness book while doing an invisible chair exercise. He also noticed Brad and Burnedead secretly watching Mash. Dot then made a stylish entrance, announcing he would oversee the exam. The students were stunned, recognizing him as an extremely gifted mage. Dot was flattered, but Mash commented on his unnecessarily flashy entrance, making Dot want to fail him. Dot announced the first exam was beginning and ordered everyone to sit, using a spell to prepare the venue, which amazed everyone except Mash. Mash stated they could have just been taken to a pre-prepared room, further irritating Dot. The exam began. The applicants found the questions on their papers moved around, making them difficult to read. It was revealed Dot had enchanted the papers, so dispelling the magic was necessary to pass. Brad and Burnedead thought Mash was doomed, but Mash ordered the words to stop moving and crushed his pen, causing the words to arrange themselves out of fear. He finished early, and Dot was surprised to see the perfect alignment. Mash used his superhuman abilities to pass the other exam sections, surprising everyone while Dot plotted to eliminate him. Dot made a maze appear from the ground, giving examinees 30 minutes to reach the goal. A girl named Lemon approached Mash, asking to tag along. They started together, but she kept falling into traps, leading Mash to deem her useless. When his back was turned, she used a spell to restrain him with cuffs, explaining she needed to keep him from the goal. Mash easily broke free and dashed off, stating he also had reasons to pass. After he left, a creature approached Lemon with a riddle. She failed to answer, and it attacked her, but Mash returned and knocked it out with a single punch. Lemon wondered why he saved her, and Mash explained they must be there for similar reasons, so he felt sorry for her. She worried about completing the maze in time, but Mash had a plan. Meanwhile, Dot was confident Mash would fail, but the ground suddenly shook with loud noises. A wall broke as Mash rejoined the group. He had destroyed the maze to create a path. Other successful examinees called him a cheater and told him to go home. Lemon confessed it wasn't Mash's fault, admitting Dot promised to get her into the school if she stopped Mash. Dot admitted this, stating he disliked Mash as he unleashed his magical power. He declared he would fail Mash and Lemon and challenged them to dispute his decision. Mash then crushed Dot's wand with his fist, telling the professor he had gone too far. At that moment, Headmaster Wahlberg arrived, announcing the final interview would begin with him as examiner. Mash was first taken to a room surrounded by school officials. They asked him questions and seemed displeased with his answers, but Wahlberg found him interesting. He asked Mash why he saved Lemon in the maze despite limited time. Mash replied he had a feeling he would regret not saving her. Wahlberg realized Mash acted before thinking and explained there were creatures stronger than him. To test this, Wahlberg used magic to summon a large creature that threatened a doll containing the soul of Burnedead, the person dearest to Mash. Mash tried to punch the creature but failed, and his hand bled. The officials were surprised when he used his hands to stop the creature's blade from reaching the doll. Mash intended to outlast the creature, knowing it would eventually disappear. Wahlberg recognized Mash as someone who could protect the weak and regulate the strong, so he recalled the creature and revealed it was all a test. He welcomed Mash to the Easton Magic Academy. Later, in class, students learned the basic lock-opening spell. The teacher demonstrated, but Mash just destroyed the lock with his hands, angering the teacher for not using magic. Mash explained he wasn't good with magic. A boy next to him, Finn Ames, began seeing him as a troublemaker. After class, Finn looked for his dorm, hoping Mash wouldn't be his roommate. He found his room missing its door and saw Mash holding it, realizing they would be roommates. They got to know each other, and Finn started to think Mash was normal until Mash introduced him to his muscles, making Finn think he was a weirdo. Mash asked to borrow Finn's broom for the next class, as he had brought a giant plant root by mistake. Finn agreed. The next day, the flying class instructor trained them to fly with brooms. Mash's broom wouldn't respond, and a student ridiculed him for slowing the class down. Mash stomped his foot, causing the broom to fly into his hand. The student called him a cheater for not using magic. The teacher announced a time trial for speed. The student challenged Mash to a race where the loser would obey the winner until graduation. Mash accepted. The instructor doubted Mash could even ride his broom but began the race anyway. Mash won instantly, setting a new world record with his speed. Everyone was confused, as they hadn't seen him move, but Finn saw Mash throw the broom forward and jump onto it mid-air. The student accused Mash of cheating, so Mash took pity and dropped the bet. The student continued complaining until his mouth was magically stitched shut by a new student named Cavill who made an entrance. Cavill apologized on his friend's behalf, though everyone knew he was a troublemaker and worried Mash had become a target. Cavill introduced himself to Mash, but Mash misheard his name as a cabbage, causing an awkward silence. Cavill prepared to cast a spell, but the teacher interrupted, reminding them they were in class. Cavill told Mash to meet him after class and left. Back in their room, Finn explained that Cavill was the son of a high-ranking Bureau of Magic official. He added that messing with Cavill could get Mash expelled, as his family had close ties with the vice principal, and Finn had seen other students suffer because of him. Mash started baking cream puffs, enjoying himself, while Cavill waited angrily at the field, upset Mash didn't show. The next day, Mash took out his terribly damaged book for class. Cavill approached, demanding to know why Mash didn't show up. Mash apologized, saying he was busy making cream puffs, which annoyed Cavill. Cavill asked if Mash wanted to become the Divine Visionary, offering to use his connections to help in exchange for Mash following his orders. Mash immediately agreed, becoming Cavill's lapdog. For his next class, Mash realized his textbook was also ruined. Finn reluctantly agreed to share his book, and Mash considered himself lucky to have such a friend. Mash brought Cavill water, but Cavill poured it on the floor and ordered him to clean it up. While Mash cleaned, it was revealed Cavill had ordered Finn to tamper with Mash's books. Bored, Cavill then ordered Finn to burn Mash's clothes. Finn refused, so Cavill used magic to bring Finn to his knees and beat him. Mash arrived later, asking what was happening. Cavill claimed he just wanted an apology from Finn, who tearfully confessed to ruining Mash's books under Cavill's orders. Cavill asked if Mash wanted to have dinner with the vice principal, but Mash walked over and bashed Cavill's head against the floor, knocking him out instantly. Finn warned Mash he would be expelled, making Mash realize the trouble he was in. Vice Principal Famine suddenly appeared, revealing that Cavill's father had entrusted him with his son's care. Famine had witnessed the incident but called it a violent attack against Cavill and announced a school conference to discuss it. He stated their status was different from Cavill's, who deserved special treatment, and called them idiots. As Famine continued ranting, Mash rushed over and landed a knockout strike on his face, horrifying the onlookers. Mash explained that since Famine wasn't open to reason, beating him up made sense as he was already in trouble. Famine threatened expulsion and tried to cast a spell, but Mash slapped dirt on his face, dug a hole, slammed Famine into it, and covered it up. Famine warned Mash wouldn't get away with it, but Mash threatened to bury him alive. Afterward, Mash was summoned by Headmaster Wahlberg, who said he had received an expulsion notice from the Bureau of Magic, the highest legal authority in the land where Divine Visionaries formed its core. Wahlberg reminded Mash of Cavill's status but then burned the notice, stating he didn't want good people disadvantaged. Wahlberg ranted about the world serving only elites and said it needed more people like Mash who would sacrifice themselves to do the right thing. He expressed his desire for Mash to become a Divine Visionary. Mash mentioned his plan to become one, so Wahlberg explained the process. Mash couldn't handle all the information, so Wahlberg simplified it. Mash needed to earn high marks and acquire as many coins as possible. Wahlberg assured Mash he would handle the bureau and the vice principal, and Mash took his leave. The next day, Tom, captain of the Duel team, invited Mash to represent their dorm in a game similar to Quidditch. Mash said he couldn't ride a broom, but Tom didn't believe him and dragged him onto the team. During the match, the enemy took possession of the ball while Mash remained on the ground, reiterating he couldn't ride a broom. The crowd, thinking he wasn't trying, cheered against him and threw things. His team was being wrecked. Tom explained the rules: they needed to pass the ball through the enemy's ring to score, and magic was forbidden as the game was about broom technique. As Tom tried to return to the game, the enemy captain intentionally bumped into him, causing him to fall with broken bones. Mash checked on him and confronted the enemy captain about sportsmanship, but the captain only cared about winning. Tom, knowing they were about to lose, told Mash that giving one's best was more important than winning. They were 50 points behind. The enemy captain thought victory was assured, but he had enraged Mash. Mash grabbed his broom, jumped into the air, and maintained altitude by rapidly kicking, confusing the spectators. He gained possession of the ball. The enemy team charged, but Mash used his inhuman strength to throw the ball, blowing them away and scoring. The crowd was shocked as the ball circled back like a boomerang. Mash repeated the move to score more points, leaving everyone in disbelief. Their score reached 999, making them winners, and the Academy recognized it as a record, rewarding them with silver coins. Finn thought his performance was incredible, but Mash never wanted to play again. Tom hugged and thanked him for the win. Later, a student named Lance Crown read a newspaper about Mash's achievement and recognized him from the entrance exam. He destroyed Mash's picture, making him his next target. During class, Tom pestered Mash to practice, and Lemon wanted to study with him, but Mash wasn't interested. Lance appeared, and Lemon recognized him as the student who proctored the entrance exam. Lance wanted to do something fun, pulling out a special magical tool that trapped Mash's friends inside a bottle. Lance told Mash to go to the forest if he wanted them back and disappeared. They met in the forest, where Lance revealed he was also collecting coins, showing 2 silver coins. He explained most people had one magic line on their face, but rare individuals with more lines had greater power. Lance challenged Mash to a duel, each betting 1 silver coin. Mash accepted. Lance used his wand to prepare the area. Mash tried to attack with his fists, but Lance used a gravity spell to slam him down. Mash struggled to stand while Lance claimed no human could withstand his spell. Mash punched through the ground, pulling out giant roots and splitting the earth beneath Lance, driving him back. Lance landed on his knees, stunned by Mash's power. As Mash dashed towards him, Lance tried the gravity spell again, but Mash used his speed to evade and attempted to punch him. Lance narrowly dodged, and his necklace fell. Mash picked it up out of curiosity, opening it to reveal a picture of Lance's sister. Lance confessed to having a sister complex and demanded it back. He asked Mash what the most important thing in the world was. Mash answered cream puffs, but Lance said the only correct answer was his little sister, making Mash think he was a creep. Lance threatened to drop his friends off a cliff, claiming he would use them to win. In a flashback, it was shown Lance's sister suffered from an incurable disease that would strip her of magic, and without it, she would be eliminated, as magicless people had no right to live. Lance wanted to become a divine visionary to save her from the system. Back in the present, Lance dropped the bottle, using magic to accelerate its descent. Mash changed into his workout gear, got into a starting position, and dashed forward so fast he disappeared. Lance tried to find him, and Mash suddenly appeared behind him. Lance couldn't believe Mash recovered the bottle so quickly, thinking he must have used magic. Mash said he was no longer interested in fighting, knowing Lance wasn't a bad guy, and pointed out the drop bottle was empty. Mash rushed towards Lance, grabbed the real bottle, and freed his friends. Lance conceded the duel, handing over his silver coin before leaving. As he walked away, Mash realized Lance was actually a pretty good guy, and his friends thanked him for saving them. It was explained that 3 dorms divided students by characteristic: Adler, courage; Orca, wisdom; and Lang, ambition, with rivalry between them. Mash put his silver coins together, 5 silver equaled 1 gold. He relaxed with Finn, who panicked about an unfinished potions assignment. Lance appeared, calling them slackers for forgetting and worrying they'd ruin their dorm's reputation. Mash used Lance's necklace against him, just seeing his sister's picture blew Lance away and knocked him out. Lance decided to help them, revealing a screaming mandrake used for the assignment, a plant that became a useful ingredient after being silenced. He showed them the spell to put it to sleep. When Mash tried, his mandrake freaked out instead. Lance gave Finn pointers about focusing magic on a single point, and Finn succeeded. Meanwhile, Mash's mandrake became huge and rampaging, but Mash slapped it unconscious. Lance then prepared the mandrake, saying it was easy, and cooked it into a potion. Finn thought it wasn't easy at all, but Mash was confident, saying it required no magic. He repeated Lance's steps but made a cream puff instead. Lance thought he was messing around, so he guided Mash step by step, but it still turned into a cream puff, leaving Lance completely confused. Despite all attempts, it always became a cream puff, though they were pretty good. Headmaster Wahlberg thought about the upcoming cross-dorm off-campus class, wondering if Mash would be okay. A student named Barrett bumped into others, who told him off, but he beat them all up, calling them side characters. At the Lang dorm, they believed those who rule should have overwhelming power and deemed the Adler dorm unworthy. The leader ordered them to take all coins from Adler students. The next day, Lang and Adler had a joint class in the forest. Mash wondered what they'd be doing when they noticed Barrett, who loudly declared himself the main character. Mash thought he was weird, but Barrett deemed Mash a side character based on appearance. Lemon approached, asking if she could tag along with Mash. Barrett got annoyed and spat on Mash. He freaked out about getting attention from a girl, thinking it was because of people like Mash that he couldn't get one himself. The group ignored him, annoying him further. The professor appeared, explaining their next class, taking out forest scorpions and retrieving the stone from their heads. Regular stones were worth a bronze coin, stronger scorpions had a square stone worth a silver coin. The professor sent them off, and Mash aimed for a silver coin. He was suddenly approached by a student named Silver who had witnessed his duel match feat but reminded him he was nothing as he attacked with a pillar of iron. The professor broke it up, and Silver claimed they were just messing around. Mash glared, but Lance stopped him, revealing Silver was a year older but had been held back for being a troublemaker. Lance warned Mash to avoid Silver, but Mash was just glad his cream puff wasn't squished. They headed into the forest. Lance suggested working together, but Mash disappeared after zoning out. He ran into Barrett, who freaked out, so Mash just slapped him. Barrett wanted to fight, but they heard a scream. A girl was being attacked by another student. She cried for help, and an explosion defeated the boy. The girl thanked Barrett for saving her, and he started freaking out, trying to act cool. When she grabbed his hand, he lost composure. Meanwhile, a defeated scorpion showed Silver had already obtained a square stone, but it seemed he was after something else. The girl thanked Barrett again, and their knees touched, overwhelming Barrett, who started slamming his head into the ground. It was revealed the girl used magic to charm anyone who found her attractive, making them fall sadly in love with her. She tried it on Mash, but it didn't work, shocking her. Barrett asked about her situation, and she explained Silver was threatening her, forcing her to use her unique magic. Barrett swore to help her, and they were suddenly attacked by Silver. Barrett decided to fight Silver to help the girl. He attacked with a barrage of fireballs, ending with a giant explosion. Meanwhile, Finn and Lemon clung to Lance, crying for help, but Lance wondered if Mash was okay since he was Silver's target. Barrett thought he had won, but as the smoke cleared, Silver had protected himself with iron. He attacked Barrett with his pillar, knocking Mash's cream puff out of his hand. Silver taunted them to fight while Mash was stunned by the loss. Barrett worried about the difference in their magical power and thought it was up to him to save the girl. Silver called his magic weak and a letdown, offering a deal: if Barrett could take 5 attacks, he would leave the girl alone, even wagering a silver coin per academy rules. The girl said it was ridiculous and he could be injured, but Barrett accepted, thinking he could withstand it. Silver stated Mash was also part of it and needed to agree. Barrett said Mash wasn't involved, but Silver insisted, so Barrett decided to take all 10 attacks to cover for Mash. Silver thought he was mad and began attacking with his Iron Fist spell. Barrett was brought to his knees after one attack but got back up. Silver continued, slamming Barrett with iron pillars as the girl and Mash watched. After 9 attacks, Barrett was still standing, thinking of the girl's cry for help. Silver prepared an extra strong final blow. The attack landed, knocking Barrett out. Silver gloated, but Barrett somehow got back up, approached Silver, and said it was over before collapsing. Silver called him an idiot. Barrett told Mash to take the girl and run, but it was revealed the girl was actually working with Silver, who called Barrett cheesy and said she hated guys like him. Silver laughed at him for being easily tricked, but his mouth was suddenly stuffed with a cream puff by Mash. Mash said they had gone too far and decided to fight, joining the 10-hit challenge and telling Silver to bring it on. Meanwhile, Mash's friends managed to take out a scorpion, but Lance wondered if Mash would be okay. Lemon thought he'd be fine since he beat a professor during the entrance exam, but Lance explained there were different types of magic users: white mags, academic support, and red mags, combat. Mash had only faced white mags so far, and many red mags past their first year would surpass him. Silver thought Mash was acting tough, saying he hated weaklings who acted like hypocrites and enjoyed crushing their spirits. He noticed his robe was singed from Barrett's magic and prepared to attack again. Mash rushed at him, Silver countered but was pushed back. Silver laughed, claiming superiority and mentioning he earned 2 gold coins in his first year. He attacked Mash with his magic, pummeling him, but Mash eventually caught and crushed the spell with his hand. Mash prepared to use tricep magic, and Silver thought he was messing around. Silver kept attacking with iron pillars, but Mash dodged and smashed through them, landing a punch that blew Silver away and made him bleed. Silver thought his magic was top tier even among second years and launched a counterattack, but Mash smashed through it, landing another blow. Silver was brought to his knees, realizing he couldn't win and couldn't take more hits. Mash suddenly backed away and sat down. Silver wondered what he was doing, and Mash said there were 8 more attacks to go. Mash got up, asking if Silver was ready, but Silver knew he would die and tried to think of a plan. An enormous scorpion with a star-shaped stone, extra strong and valuable, appeared. Silver thought he could escape while Mash was occupied, but Mash sent it flying with a single hit, making it drop the stone. Silver freaked out, thinking Mash was a monster. Mash called off their fight, feeling bad for him, and turned to the girl. She panicked, crying and saying she was forced to help Silver. Mash told her it was okay, and she thought men were easy to manipulate, but Mash believed in equality and slammed her into the ground. Barrett thought there was something wrong with him. Mash met his friends, Lemon worried, seeing him beaten up, but he said he was fine. Finn was impressed he beat the Starstone Scorpion, revealing it was worth 2 silver coins. Lemon thought he should go to the nurse's office and checked on Barrett, who was instantly charmed by her and started freaking out while she thought he was weird. Barrett apologized to Mash for getting him involved and thanked him, but Mash thought he was acting weird, so Barrett immediately threatened to beat him, saying it took everything to be nice. Mash's pocket glowed as his silver coins joined into a gold coin. Lance mentioned they were being targeted, explaining the Langdorm was hunting them for coins, which was why Silver attacked. He said the Langdorm was like Slytherin, valuing birthright and bloodlines, wanting to prevent the riffraff from joining the Bureau of Magic. He warned them to watch out for the Magia Lupus, the elite group from the Langdorm. Mash said he didn't even know they were separated by dorms, and Finn reminded him of the sorting ceremony. After being accepted into the academy, they were sorted by a unicorn skeleton that read their minds. When it was Mash's turn, it saw he only thought about cream puffs. The skeleton panicked, struggling to sort a student for the first time in centuries. It looked deeper but found only cream puffs and decided cream puff lovers belonged to Adler. Lance continued, explaining the Magia Lupus consisted of the dorm's top 7 students, and Silver was a lackey. He warned Mash to be extra careful with a coin and stick with their dorm. Despite this, Mash got lost looking for his class. He found a door and wondered if it was a push or a pull. Meanwhile, Silver apologized for his failure. The leader of the Langdorm, Abel, held a creepy doll. He said their mission was to cleanse the world of impurities. Silver begged for a second chance, but Abel called him unworthy even as a pawn and turned him into a doll. The doll got in line, and Abel claimed he was the only one worthy to become the next divine visionary, talking to his doll, which he called Mother. Mash suddenly entered, apologizing for destroying another door and pointing out it was weird to talk to a doll. Abel knew Mash had a gold coin and asked why he wanted to become a divine visionary. Mash said he just wanted to live peacefully with his family, but the world wouldn't accept him. Abel thought that was ridiculous and unworthy, explaining he wanted to return the world to its rightful form. He said humanity flourished by getting rid of the weak and magicless, but society had become weak. He called humans beasts by nature and planned to restore the natural order. Mash said he just wanted to live peacefully too and didn't understand. Abel offered to let him go in exchange for his gold coin, but Mash refused. Abel attacked with a puppet, but Mash dodged, countering with his legs and ripping its strings, turning it back into silver. Mash was grabbed by another puppet, which took his coin and flicked it to Abel. Mash was thrown into a pillar but got up, apologizing for calling the puppet weak, and decided to take silver to the infirmary. Abel wondered if he was giving up his coin, but Mash said he was just prioritizing and declared he wouldn't lose no matter how strong they were. Mash left with silver, but Abel felt something off, noticing a missing button on his puppet. He found it in his hand instead of Mash's coin. One student couldn't believe it. When the puppet flicked the coin, Mash had ripped its button off and spat it out at incredible speed, hitting the coin midair and sucking it back to himself. The girl couldn't believe it, and Abel found Mash interesting. At the infirmary, Silver woke up with no memory after being turned into a doll. Seeing Mash working out, he realized Mash saved him. Seeing Silver was okay, Mash left, and Silver reflected on his actions. In Mash's dorm room, Lance and Barrett were in a heated discussion. Finn wondered what they were doing there, but Barrett got pissed at Lance, thinking he had an easy life thanks to his looks. Lance wanted to teach him a lesson, and they prepared to fight, but Mash entered, telling them not to break things. Mash enjoyed a cream puff, thinking it was another peaceful day. Lemon suddenly appeared with big news, leading them to a magic scale showing each dorm's gold coins. Lang had 15, while Adler and Orca only had 1 each. At this rate, Lang would get the next divine visionary. The Orca dorm was focused on research, so it was up to Adler to stop Lang. The guys got fired up about crushing the Lang students, but Mash ended up in the owl hut. Headmaster Wahlberg had been forced to give Mash a punishment, cleaning the owl hut for a week. The owls pecked at him, and he thought about how they were just getting fired up. Lance joined him, saying the Lang students might target him since he had a coin, so he could use that as a chance to hunt them, but Mash thought Lance was just worried about him. 2 Lang students, Andrew and Shiny, the 6th and 7th fangs of the Magia Lupus, approached, challenging them to a fight and wagering a gold coin. Mash said he'd never swam as he sank into suddenly appearing water. Andrew transformed into a shark and jumped into the water after Mash, leaving Shiny to face Lance. Shiny attacked with a spinning blade, but Lance dodged, thinking his magic was weak compared to his gravity magic. As Lance tried to cast, he was distracted by owls. He dodged another attack and tried to focus but thought of his sister telling him not to harm the owls. Shiny attacked with double blades, and Lance noticed owls behind him, so he got hit. Lance used his spell, making only a shovel fall. Shiny was disappointed and decided to finish him off with triple blades but noticed all the owls in one spot. Lance used his gravity spell, crushing all the blades, saying the owls were in the way so he moved them by dropping a shovel to cut open a bag of feed. Shiny attacked with his strongest blade, but Lance easily crushed him with gravity. Shiny couldn't believe there was such a power difference despite both having double lines. Lance said someone who fought for self-superiority couldn't compare to him, who fought to save his sister. Meanwhile, Andrew gloated about trapping Mash in his sea field, saying escape was impossible. But Mash suddenly zoomed past, shocking Andrew with his speed. Andrew thought about how Mash said he couldn't swim, but Mash said he got the hang of it and thanked him for the realization. Mash swam around him, making Andrew feel hunted. Andrew transformed into a more monstrous form, but Mash crashed into him repeatedly as he swam. Andrew couldn't handle the blows, and Mash escaped the sea field. Lance took their coin, and they thought the Magia Lupus members weren't that strong. Mash agreed, but suddenly another member appeared, instantly getting past both of them. Lance tried his gravity spell, but it didn't work. Mash immediately changed into his gear and charged at full speed, but the man dodged. Lance wondered if he used teleportation magic, but the man used a magic bottle to collect his allies, bid farewell, and said they would meet again soon. Lance thought beating the Magia Lupus might not be easy. As the masked man walked away, his mask cracked, and he thought about Mash's speed without magic, wondering if they were the same. At night, the man confronted an Orca dorm student for his gold coin. The student attacked with magma magic, but the man was unfazed and easily defeated him. Disappointed, it ended quickly. Elsewhere, a puppet in student robes wandered through the school. The next day, Lance planned how to deal with the Magia Lupus. The location of each dorm was hidden, so Lance suggested finding the Lang dorm and going on the offensive to take their coins, but Mash was busy making cream puffs. Lance gave Mash a new robe with the Adler mark on the back, hoping it would remind him he belonged to their dorm. Lemon burst in, saying something happened to Tom. They visited him in the infirmary. He looked completely drained. Tom said he had no memory of how he got there, but noted he usually lived at full throttle and fell asleep instantly without dreaming. Last night, he dreamed he was trapped in a dark box, conscious but unable to do anything. Lemon asked how he felt, and Tom said he was okay but temporarily couldn't use magic, as if his magic energy had been drained. It was revealed other students suffered the same condition, starting ever since the headmaster was called away by the Bureau of Magic. Lemon gave Mash a cream puff lucky charm, making him promise not to do anything too risky and to always keep it to think of her. She started losing it, imagining him dreaming about her. That night, Lance and Mash wandered the school looking for the Lang dorm. They were joined by Barrett and Finn. Lance wondered why they tagged along. Barrett was interested in getting coins, and Finn didn't want to be left alone. As they explored, they saw Lemon, and Barrett rushed over, but Lance noticed something off. Lemon's body twisted and convulsed. She had been turned into a puppet, but the others managed to avoid her gaze. She continued on her way, and Barrett found her cute even as a puppet. They followed her but came to a dead end. Finn heard the crackling of her body, and Lance used a spell that revealed a hidden door. Lance noted they needed another spell to open it. Barrett tried fireballs to blow it open, but it didn't budge. Mash grabbed a suit of armor, threw it down next to the door, cracked it open, stuck a sword inside as a lever, stepped on it, and blew the door right out of the school, creating a huge hole in the roof. Lance said the Magia Lupus was probably waiting inside, and Mash looked at his good luck charm, thinking he couldn't keep his promise to Lemon. The group headed in, surprised by a hidden space under the school. They saw light and came out to an arena. A student named Gizmo appeared, saying they needed to defeat him to continue. Lance was about to fight, but Barrett stepped in, saying he had a grudge against good-looking guys. Barrett ranted about Gizmo's easy life, but Gizmo thought he was just jealous and transformed his wand into a rose whip. They prepared to fight. Meanwhile, at the Bureau of Magic, Headmaster Wahlberg talked to the director, who said he'd been called for a serious issue. 6 notorious criminals on death row had escaped, the guards were slaughtered, and they had help from Innocent Zero. Back at the arena, Barrett attacked with fireballs, but they were stopped by Gizmo's vines, which lashed out. Barrett barely dodged but was confident, attacking with another round of fireballs that landed around Gizmo, creating marks. Barrett told him to watch his step, saying they had 5 times the normal power. Gizmo thought it was a lame trap, but Barrett was sure he'd fall for it. Gizmo wondered if Barrett could move him into the trap but attacked with his rose whip. Barrett got grabbed and dropped his wand. Gizmo grew thorns on the vines, stabbing Barrett. Gizmo said the fight was over and went to finish him, but Barrett activated his trap card, causing a huge explosion from one of the marks. Gizmo's wand was destroyed. Barrett mentioned he never said anything about stepping on the marks. His spell was a time bomb. He activated the remaining marks, and Gizmo couldn't believe he lost to someone like him. Finn congratulated Barrett, who was excited for another opponent, but Gizmo posed even though defeated, and the group started sinking into the ground. Mash tried to save his cream puff as they all got sucked down, landing on the floor below and splitting up. Lance felt overwhelming energy and was confronted by Margaret, the third fang of the Magia Lupus. Barrett and Finn landed together and came across Milo and Love, the fourth and fifth fangs. Finn thought they were doomed, but Barrett told him not to give up, thinking he had the power of the main character. Mash landed in a dark room, wondering where his friends were. The room lit up, and the masked man introduced himself as Rayne, the second fang of the Magia Lupus. He complimented Mash's movements from their last meeting and seemed to have figured out Mash couldn't use magic. Mash worried his secret was out. Margaret explained that strength was everything and the weak were worthless. Lance wasn't interested and attacked with gravity magic, but Margaret got squished into mud and seeped into the ground. She reappeared behind him with clones. Lance defended himself, squashing them back into mud, but Margaret said it was useless as the mud reformed. Lance thought he needed to attack the real body to stop the clones, so he attacked the whole field with his magic. Margaret reappeared behind him again, catching him with mud and attacking with hardened mud balls. Margaret thought Lance was skilled but said his talent was wasted, inviting him to serve the Magia Lupus. She said magic developed depending on environment and people, calling everyone in Adler trash and saying Lance would sink to their level. She boasted about the Magia Lupus's talent, education tools, and potions. Lance scoffed, saying his strength didn't rely on environment and called Margaret inferior. He attacked with his magic, sending Margaret into the wall. She exploded with mud, having surrounded the room with it to absorb impacts, which worked against gravity magic that slammed opponents into the ground. Margaret thought he couldn't lose, but Lance started attacking with rocks instead, having worked out the trick. Margaret was forced out of hiding. Lance claimed he must have a better environment since he was stronger, but Margaret told him not to get cocky, taking out a potion of magical essence extracted from other students. She drank it, causing her power to surge, and used an advanced form of magic known as Second. She created an enormous demon mud monster, explaining that second magic could only be cast by double-liners and only by the few worthy. Margaret thought back to her childhood, when her father said his worth was based solely on magic aptitude, so he focused on getting his father's approval. He thought he was worthy after achieving this level, telling Lance he'd never be as strong since he hung out with failures. Lance dodged, thinking about how Mash helped him improve, and revealed he could also use second magic, creating gravity pillars that surrounded the monster. The monster was pulled by gravity from all sides, and Lance created one more pillar above, ripping it apart. Margaret couldn't believe he lost and thought back to his father never acknowledging him, thinking his father was right and he was worthless. Lance threw him the book he found, commenting on how worn it was, so he could see how hard he worked. Lance said his own family valued worth by position and social standing, so they were raised similarly, but his sister just wanted to be a singer and try her best, which helped him realize that was more important. Although he couldn't agree with Margaret's thinking, he respected his efforts and left to find his friends. Mash worried Rayne knew his secret. Rayne thought they were similar, both rejected by the world, but said he had his own reasons for being there. They prepared to fight. Mash changed into his workout gear and charged with a kick that pushed Rayne back, but Rayne suddenly dashed past, cutting him. Rayne said he couldn't win, showing his magic that boosted his speed. He dashed around, landing multiple hits, saying they were on different levels. Mash refused to give up, and Rayne thought his dream to live peacefully with his family was disgusting because they had similar circumstances, but Mash was lucky with the people around him. He told Mash to show him what he could do, revealing Lemon was being drained of her magic, and after 30 minutes, she would have no magic, just like him. Mash swore to beat him, and Rayne went all out, repeatedly slashing Mash as he dashed around. Mash couldn't defend himself and got stabbed in the stomach, but the sword got stuck as Mash clenched his abs. He headbutted Rayne, breaking his mask and revealing his face. His eye was red, but Mash thought it was just bloodshot and asked if he was okay. Rayne explained it was the evil eye, which could disable anyone's magic, seen as a power from the devil, making him an outcast. Mash apologized since the eye didn't work on him. Rayne explained he was the natural enemy of all magicians, feared and despised his entire life, even by his family, and thought he should never have been born, but Mash wouldn't understand since he had a loving father. He activated his second magic, creating a field around them. An arrow appeared on Mash's body, and in an instant, Rayne delivered another devastating attack, explaining that within the field, Mash's speed was drained and transferred to him, so he had no chance of winning. Mash could only shield himself. Rayne said it was the end, but Mash smashed the ground, splitting the floor and destroying Rayne's sword. Rayne realized that by splitting the floor, his movements were limited. He thought about pulling back, but Mash stepped on his foot, stopping him from running. Mash activated his muscle magic, delivering a devastating smash that blew Rayne out of the field, breaking his spell. Mash chased him down, kicking him in the back. Rayne was thrown away but thought that if he lost, he would also lose his reason to live, so he tried to fight back. They clashed, but Mash caught his sword, smashing him into the wall and around the place, finishing with a submission attack. As Rayne lay on the ground, he wished he was born normal. His eye manifested when he was a child, and his parents locked him in the basement so people wouldn't find out. After some time, they tried to kill him, and he realized he should never have been born. But Abel gave him purpose. Even if he was used as a tool, it gave him a reason to live. Now that he failed, he thought he was back to being unwanted. Mash could see how lucky he was to have his father and offered to become Rayne's friend. Rayne thought it was impossible, saying Mash's feelings would change, but as thanks for his kindness, Rayne warned him not to go ahead, saying Abel was on a completely different level and he had no chance of winning. Mash thanked him for the warning but decided to keep going, saying his feelings wouldn't change no matter what others thought, and invited him to have cream puffs together next time they met. Barrett and Finn were up against Milo and Love. Another student found the secret door and prepared to head inside. Love said they were only single-liners and would be easy, so Milo let her handle them and went to find Mash instead. Love immediately asked if they liked her, but Barrett and Finn found this strange, saying they didn't even know her. She asked if they thought she was cute. Barrett could tell she was trying to be manipulative but said she was totally his type, though he claimed Lemon was already his female lead, so he couldn't be with her. Love immediately told him to die. She claimed all women were queens, and any guy who couldn't tell them they were cute and serve them didn't deserve to live. Barrett thought she was too extreme. Love asked again if they liked her. Barrett tried to resist, saying he already had Lemon, and Finn thought it was deja vu. Barrett got hit by Love's tornado magic and blown away. Love claimed her father told her she could kill anyone who didn't cherish her, but Barrett got back up, attacking with fireballs. Love said his magic was too weak, but the fireballs landed short, causing a smoke screen. Barrett lunged for her wand but got blown away and knocked down. Love revealed Milo's power could turn a specific target to stone. The target was the one who opened the door, so Mash would be turned to stone if they didn't defeat her and stop Milo within 30 minutes. Love trapped Barrett in a tornado cage, saying it was impossible to escape. Barrett struggled inside, and Love felt bad for Mash because his friends were so weak, calling him a fool for going up against Abel. Barrett felt like he was about to die, thinking there was nothing he could do, but he flashed back to his childhood when other kids picked on him, training him with an old broom. His sister stood up for him, telling him to fight back. He thought that would make things worse, but she said he gave up too easily and it would be a problem when he got a real friend who would stand up for him no matter what, so he must fight to hold on to people like that. He thought about how Mash stood up for him and refused to let Love mock his friend. As Love went to finish Finn off, Barrett broke free from the tornado cage. She attacked with her tornado, but Barrett easily cancelled it out. She wondered how his power suddenly increased and noticed the mark on his head. Barrett said it was a crime to insult his friends as he created countless fireballs around the arena. Love panicked, and Barrett claimed he was the main character as he attacked with fireballs, but when the smoke cleared, he had intentionally missed. He said he didn't like hurting girls and told her to leave, but a stone head suddenly appeared behind Finn. Barrett pushed him out of the way, blocking the attack. Milo returned, wondering what was going on. Love apologized for losing. Barrett was glad Milo gave up on turning Mash to stone, but Milo prepared to crush them. The hands were about to reach them, but Milo was suddenly stabbed by a sword and blown away. Finn recognized the sword, and Milo was shocked, realizing he was up against a previous divine visionary, Rayne. He was the ace of the Adler dorm and Finn's older brother. Milo tried to regain composure, thinking he was just a student, and attacked with his stone head, but Rayne easily split it in half and attacked Milo with all his swords. As the dust cleared, Milo realized he stood no chance and begged for his life. Barrett was shocked by how brutal he was, wondering if they were really on the same side. Rayne told them to get out, saying he would handle the rest, and Love quickly ran away. After his interrogation, Rayne headed deeper into the dungeon. He had been sent by Headmaster Wahlberg because they had a lead on Innocent Zero, and his pawn should be in the area. He thought they could be hiding their magic power but suddenly ran into Mash, who was eating a cream puff. Rayne found he had a strange aura and thought Mash could be one of the pawns, so he summoned a spider that could measure magic power to see if he was really a student. Rayne attacked with his sword, but Mash easily caught it, wondering what was going on. The spider detected he had 0 magic and thought it was a bug. Rayne attacked again with 3% of his power. The attack landed on Mash, but he turned the swords into a chair. Rayne asked for his name, and when Mash told him, Rayne remembered Wahlberg telling him about a unique new student. Rayne apologized for attacking, but Mash didn't accept it. Rayne felt bad and gave Mash a magic handkerchief that could heal wounds. Mash thought he must like rabbits but thanked him for the item. Rayne warned him about Abel, and Mash wondered how he knew. Rayne revealed Wahlberg told him about Mash's goal to become the next divine visionary, so it was natural for him to be up against Abel, who currently held the most coins. Rayne supported his goal, wanting more strong allies. He warned Mash about Abel's dull magic, saying he might struggle against him because he had no magic, but Mash insisted that he did. Rayne wished him luck, saying he had other things to do. Mash thanked him for his help, but Rayne claimed he did everything for his own sake. Wahlberg had told him about how Mash put his friends above himself and even saved his brother, so Rayne was rooting for him to achieve his goal. Mash found the final room, wondering if the door was a push or a pull. He guessed correctly but thought about Lemon and ended up blowing the door open. Abel was surprised he defeated Rayne, thinking Rayne should be the only student who could stand up to the evil eye, so Mash could be on the same level as a divine visionary. Mash worried Abel had worked out his secret but was relieved when Abel just thought he was strong, referring to him as a fellow superior being and reminding him of his plan to get rid of the inferior. He thought the weak had been taking advantage of their kindness, gaining more rights and making them weaker overall, so he wanted to get rid of them all. Mash wondered if he meant those who couldn't use magic, and Abel said they needed to be disposed of because just segregating them wasn't enough. Abel also included underachievers and people who sheltered the weak on his list. Mash thought back to how Burnedead took him in. He did a double backflip even as a kid, and Burnedead gave him his first cream puff. He thought about Burnedead telling him how proud he was to have him as his son and realized he couldn't be friends with Abel. Love went to find Abel, relieved she got away from Rayne, but found the door to Abel's room broken and was shocked to see Mash fighting Abel. Mash crushed one of the puppets, but acid suddenly spilled out. Abel told him to be more careful. Mash grabbed the head of the destroyed puppet. Love wondered what Mash could do against the acid puppets, but Mash threw the head, bowling over all the acid puppets in a single strike. Love couldn't believe it, and Mash wondered if Abel would consider himself inferior if he lost. He also asked what Abel had done with Lemon, but Abel claimed he didn't know who he was talking about and summoned stronger puppets, thinking Mash didn't stand a chance. The puppets were sent flying, and Abel realized Mash had gotten stronger since their last meeting. Mash demanded that if he won, Abel must let Lemon go. Abel was impressed Mash wasn't all talk but used his strongest puppet, Mash himself, as Mash started to beat himself up uncontrollably, with strings attached to his body. He started choking himself, but the string suddenly broke as Abel apologized for using such a crude technique, saying it was too one-sided. Instead, he brought out Finn, whom he had captured and turned into a puppet. He noted he also captured Barrett, but he was too injured to be useful, so Finn would serve as the entertainment. He sent Finn to attack, but Mash blocked. Abel warned him he wasn't allowed to block, or else he would tear Finn to pieces. Mash started getting beaten up, and Abel suggested he had the choice to take Finn out himself, saying people always wanted to believe they were good, but that wasn't their true nature. Mash continued taking hits, and Finn's axe ended up breaking, but Mash was still unfazed. He took out his gold coin, and Abel wondered if he was finally ready to hand it over. Mash flicked it at him, but it actually cut the strings controlling Finn, who started transforming back into a human. The coin returned to Mash, and he claimed the coin must like him better. Abel used his technique to control Mash again, deciding he was done messing around. Mash tried to resist, but Abel called it useless, saying it was impossible for a human to resist his power. Mash said he would make him regret messing with his friends as he took a step, breaking one of Abel's fingers. Mash got into position as Abel struggled to hold him back. Mash broke free and smashed him in the face. However, Abel activated his skill, and Mash started turning into a puppet. Abel was impressed Mash made him use this spell, but Mash was completely transformed into a puppet, and Abel said it was all over. Abel went to take Mash's coin, but it turned out to be a cream puff. Abel was confused, he suddenly got punched, and Mash returned to being human, glad his cream puff was okay. Abel wondered how Mash moved as a puppet, as his puppet magic blocked electric signals from the brain, so he shouldn't be able to move. He realized it must have been a spinal reflex, like pulling back after touching something hot or moving your foot when your knee gets tapped, actions that bypass the brain to respond quickly to external threats. Taking Mash's cream puff was the trigger for the reflex. Love thought it was ridiculous the cream puff was so important to him. Abel acknowledged Mash and decided to use the power he gained from extracting magic from other students. He activated his second magic, summoning a giant puppet with the ability to turn anyone within a 100-meter radius into a puppet. He explained the puppet would create invisible strings that would transform the body on contact. Love worried she was also in range. Abel said it was impossible to counter his attack, and once Mash became a puppet, he would be toyed with until he could never recover. The strings descended, covering the entire area, and Abel said Mash should be happy he made him use his ultimate skill. But his doll was somehow destroyed, and Mash was revealed to be fine. Abel wondered how he was still human, and Mash said he just tore the strings. Love was shocked by what actually happened. Mash had shifted his body so the strings touched him at different times. The moment he felt the string on his left side, he instantly tore them when he still had control of his right hand. Abel wondered if Mash was even human. He tried attacking with his puppet, but Mash completely shattered it, appeared behind Abel, and smashed him into the ground. In a flashback, Abel's mother was kind and compassionate, a noble who treated commoners equally, saying it was only by chance they were born privileged. She distributed food to the poor, but one got greedy, wanting all the food, and stabbed her when she resisted. Despite believing in humanity's goodness, she was taken away, so Abel started to believe the weak needed to be purged. He gathered the most talented people, those also dissatisfied with the world. He refused to change his mind, saying it was natural for the strong to take from the weak, but Mash said he was wrong because there would always be bad people no matter their social standing. Since he won their fight, Mash asked for Lemon's location, and Abel agreed to let all the students go. Mash thought that since Abel was doing everything for his mother, he wasn't such a bad guy. Abel released his spell, revealing Lemon, and Mash caught her. Finn regained consciousness, and the three were glad to be reunited. They all celebrated, and Finn and Lemon called Mash a hero. Finn was in tears, thanking Mash, and Lemon apologized for getting him involved and thanked him for saving her. Barrett came crawling over, saying he also helped, and they continued celebrating. Abel couldn't believe he lost to such buffoons, and Finn wondered what happened to Lance. Lance was in the dungeon and ran into Rayne. Lance suddenly blocked his attack, and Rayne was surprised he could counter his magic. His spider companion revealed his power was through the roof, and it wasn't actually Lance but one of Innocent Zero's associates. The man wondered how Rayne saw through his disguise, but Rayne was just attacking first and asking questions later, saying it was faster. Rayne wondered what Innocent Zero wanted from the school. The man revealed they were searching for something. Abel was meant to help them look but turned out to be no help, so he was off to kill Abel since they no longer needed him. Rayne tried to go after him but was stopped by a giant knife. The man went ahead, and Rayne was confronted by another opponent, but he worried for Mash and his friends because the man heading towards them had power on the level of a divine visionary. Burnedead and Brad wondered how Mash was doing at the academy, hoping he hadn't been exposed for having no magic. Burnedead wondered why Brad didn't need to work, but he said he was there to get some screen time. Mash and his friends continued celebrating, and Abel wondered how long they would keep fooling around. Mash excused himself to go to the bathroom, and his friends were just glad everything was over. The other students who were puppets had all turned back to normal, but the criminals suddenly arose. They wondered who he was, but the man just blew them away. Barrett thought about fighting him but instantly sensed how strong he was. The man approached Abel. His name was Cell. He saw that Abel lost against someone and called him pathetic for not reaching the top at the school. Cell thanked him for his intel about the headmaster but suddenly controlled Abel's hands, making him choke himself. Cell said he couldn't find the one they were looking for, so Abel was no longer needed. Abel was about to die, but Mash suddenly returned with a plate of cream puffs, ready to continue their celebration. His friends told him it wasn't the time, and a fly landed on his nose, tickling it and causing him to sneeze, throwing the cream puffs at Cell. His friends wondered if it was a coincidence, and Abel managed to get free. Mash asked for his cream puffs back, and his friends couldn't believe that was all he was thinking about. Cell threw the cream puffs to the ground, shocking Mash, and Cell suddenly felt a headache, wondering if Mash was the one he had been looking for. Cell decided to finish what he started, lifting Abel into the air and preparing to finish him off. Mash tried to save him, but Rayne suddenly appeared to protect Abel. Mash rushed over, and Rayne apologized, saying he wouldn't be able to have a cream puff with him. Mash gave him back his magic handkerchief. Cell was surprised his attack wasn't fatal. Just before he cast his spell, Mash threw a rock at him, altering its trajectory. Mash stood up to him and smashed the ground, kicking a rock at Cell. Everyone was surprised because Cell caught the rock and started licking it, but Mash just found him weird for licking a rock. Cell said Rayne only had 30 minutes before he was beyond help and wondered what Mash could do. He attacked with his magic, which Mash smashed with his fists. Cell wondered if he was all talk, combined his magic into a stronger attack, and hit Mash. Abel thought Mash couldn't win because there was too much difference between them. He thought back to his mother saying it was only by chance they were privileged and thought Cell was just superior, so they had no chance. Cell continued launching attacks, but Mash kept blocking. Abel thought Rayne was a fool for saving him, but Mash said Rayne was happy. He said Rayne was always alone, but Abel gave him a reason to keep living, and he was happy to be needed. Mash said he would feel the same, imagining himself in Rayne's situation. Abel remembered his mother also told him to put himself in another's position to become kinder. Mash kept fighting, and it was shown how Rayne was feared his entire life, always alone, wishing he was never born, but when he met Abel, who accepted him, he found a reason to live. He told Abel to get away while he still could, and Abel thought he was noble, just like his mother. Mash was stuck defending, and Cell wondered if that was all he could do. Abel could see Mash had no chance to close in on Cell, and Cell started to get bored, attacking with even bigger projectiles. Things looked bad for Mash, but Abel's doll suddenly protected him. Abel sent his doll to attack, but Cell easily crushed it with his magic, telling Abel he didn't stand a chance. But one of the heads suddenly moved, revealing Mash was hiding inside, and he smashed Cell in the face. Cell was protected by armor but was surprised Mash damaged it. He wondered what kind of magic Mash was using, but said it didn't matter as he took out a mirror. Barrett recognized it as the spell Reflection Mirror, a magic item that could reflect any kind of magic, the most feared item among magic users. Barrett warned Mash, and Cell told him to do his worst, saying he would be crushed by his own magic, but Mash smashed right through it. His friends were shocked, realizing Mash's power wasn't magical, and remembered his past feats, thinking he was something out of a fairy tale. Cell was unfazed by Mash's attack but suddenly noticed a mark forming on his hand, confirming Mash was really the one they were looking for. The room shattered, and two giant hands appeared. Cell claimed he had an urgent errand to run but told Mash he would see him again soon. Cell disappeared, and Mash was glad it was over. Abel headed to the infirmary with Rayne, who hoped to have cream puffs with Mash next time they met. Abel offered Mash thanks, saying he would return the favor one day. Mash's friends joined him, still shocked he had no magic. They worried he would get into trouble if people found out, and Mash started to get scared, claiming he could totally use magic. His friends decided they would help protect his secret, but one of the other students woke up, saying he heard everything. He thought it was ridiculous someone with no magic was at the school and planned to tell everyone. Mash realized his time had finally come, and his friends wondered what he would do, but Mash decided it was the perfect time to have a cream puff. The Adler dorm was now in the lead with the most coins, and the group bullied the student into keeping Mash secret. Finn was still worried, and another student came up, asking Mash if it was true he couldn't use magic. Finn couldn't believe it was already leaked, and Mash started freaking out but claimed he could use it. Finn quickly took him away, but the student warned Finn that protecting a non-magic user would get him into trouble, saying he could be expelled. The boy demanded the truth, but Finn stood up to him, saying who he hung out with was none of his business. The boy was suddenly crushed into the ground as Lance appeared. Finn couldn't believe his courage was for nothing. Lemon and Barrett also appeared, but Barrett seemed in bad shape. They headed back to their dorm room and had a feast to celebrate their victory against the Lang dorm, since they had the most coins. Mash thought they just needed to wait for the Divine Visionary selection, but Finn was still worried. Abel and Rayne were also at the party. Finn was scared of them, but Abel pulled out a deck of cards, ready to have fun. He noted he didn't plan on becoming friends but was just there to celebrate Rayne's recovery, and Rayne swore to slay anyone who dared beat Abel in a game. Lemon told him to chill out, offering him tea, but he froze up as he thanked her, and Abel revealed Rayne had no experience dealing with girls. Lemon tried getting closer, making him cough up blood. Love was also at the party, and Lemon tried to feed Mash a cream puff to show her appreciation. He said he could eat on his own, and the cream puff fell, but Mash took a deep breath and sucked it back up. The party continued, and Finn couldn't believe he was part of such a ridiculous group. An owl delivered a letter to the academy, and Rayne had a moment with Mash, thanking him for inviting him to the party. He warned Mash about being targeted by Innocent Zero, revealing they were the worst crime syndicate in the realm and were looking for people with high magical power at the academy. He noted Mash had a connection to whoever they were looking for, so he was sure they would return. He revealed that by using Innocent Zero's power, Abel artificially gained his third magic line, but Rayne warned that genuine triple-liners were even more terrifying. Finn went out with Abel to get a board game but wondered why he tagged along. Rayne noted that Abel borrowed Innocent Zero's power to create a world where kind people like his mother could live in peace. He thanked Mash for stopping Abel but thought Mash might be able to create a world where everyone could live in peace, telling him he was counting on him. The student from earlier sneaked around to find proof about Mash but was shocked to see him talking to Rayne and Abel. Abel returned, asking what he was doing there. The boy freaked out and ran away. The owl smashed through the window, delivering the letter to Mash, and they were shocked when they read it. The next day at the Bureau of Magic, Mash was in an emergency inquiry regarding concealing his lack of magic. The official noted God created their beautiful world, including the miracle of magic, but the existence of people like Mash threatened this miracle. He called Mash a bug that needed to be dealt with, but another man appeared, recognized as a divine visionary named Grant. Grant saw potential in Mash but noted that in their world, rules were important to maintain order, saying the rules were for the majority, so Mash needed to sway the majority. He threw a card at Mash, and it turned into a candle. He noted magic was everything in their world, so he told Mash to light the candle without touching it, saying he needed to show them a miracle stronger than magic. The official thought it was ridiculous, but Mash took out his wand. The official thought Grant gave Mash an impossible task to make him give up, but Mash got down and started rubbing his wand with tremendous speed. The official didn't think it would work since the ground was stone, but a huge fire was created, lighting the candle. Mash realized what he needed to do and declared he would sway the majority. Meanwhile, a group of divine visionaries discussed Mash, thinking it was ridiculous and rules must be upheld without exception. Mash thought the meeting was over, but he was suddenly attacked by sand. He wondered what was going on, and the group of divine visionaries arrived. The official wondered what they were doing there, so the divine visionary, Anna, said it was unacceptable to allow exceptions, saying Mash needed to be put to death. Mash was shocked. Anna noted it was a consensus from all divine visionaries. The official suddenly jumped down next to Mash but was taken over by a dark aura. He had been taken over by Innocent Zero. They claimed Mash belonged to them, and as proof they were serious, a magic parasite was attached to the official. Grant saw it as a declaration of war, and the bureau employee, Sean, freaked out, explaining the parasite was a dangerous creature that used humans as hosts and fed off their mana. Grant jumped down to deal with it, but Sean warned it was too dangerous because it would transfer to him. Grant was willing to take the risk, but Mash just ripped it out. Grant couldn't believe he did that, and the parasite jumped into Mash's mouth. Sean couldn't believe he didn't listen to the warning, but Mash vomited it out, and the parasite had been tied up. Sean was shocked, wondering what happened, and Mash revealed he just tied it up like a cherry stem with his tongue. Sean thought it was ridiculous. Mash thought it was over after dealing with it, but Anna said they weren't finished and still wanted to put Mash to death. Mash dug himself into the ground and refused to go with them, so Anna prepared to deal with him. He disappeared with his sand and instantly appeared behind Mash, about to attack with a sand drill, but Grant stopped him, saying he hadn't heard his opinion. Anna said the rules were everything, so his opinion didn't matter, but a sword suddenly drove them away. Mash recognized the sword, and Headmaster Wahlberg arrived with Rayne. Anna wondered why Wahlberg called the divine visionaries, saying Mash deserved to die because he couldn't use magic, but Wahlberg asked them to reconsider, thinking Mash might help them find Innocent Zero, who appeared interested in him. The divine visionaries considered the proposal as Mash wondered why Wahlberg appeared important. Grant revealed he was a living legend, the only mage who could rival Innocent Zero's powers during his youth, and even among divine visionaries, he was a force to be reckoned with. Anna explained he couldn't accept the proposal, thinking regulations existed to maintain order, so they needed to follow them at all costs, but everyone was surprised as Wahlberg bowed to them. He said it was true Mash couldn't use magic, but he had the ability to sway people's hearts. Wahlberg thought Mash might change the world, suggesting they shouldn't treat non-magic users as inferior beings, considering it unjust treatment. He reminded everyone their values had changed throughout the years, but it took courage to do this because they first needed to accept they had committed injustice. Anna rejected his idea, saying he shouldn't force his opinion on others, but Rayne joined him, imploring them not to kill Mash because he had proven himself worthy of their trust. The visionaries thought the public would never accept him, saying Wahlberg shouldn't use his emotions to make difficult decisions, but the official revealed he shared Wahlberg's opinion. He explained they received magical powers from God, and it was only natural to exclude non-magic users because they weren't as capable, but Mash saved his life even though he couldn't use magic, so the official implored them to defer his sentence, saying he was willing to accept punishment for going against regulations but would never change his mind. Anna accepted his decision under the condition that Mash would act under their supervision and prove he was strong enough to defeat Innocent Zero by becoming the year's divine visionary candidate. Anna warned him he would die if he failed, but he wasn't bothered, saying he wanted peace for everyone as he struck the ground, causing a shock wave, and promised to defeat Innocent Zero with his fist. Back in his dorm, Mash explained the incident to his friends, and Lance was surprised to learn Mash couldn't use magic, recalling their battle and thinking Mash was just holding back. Barrett invited everyone to walk around town. The next day, Finn waited for his friends, wondering what clothes they would wear. Barrett arrived wearing knight's armor because he thought having fun was a battle, and Mash arrived in his workout gear, moving around with training equipment. Finn found them weird and didn't want to be seen with them. At that moment, Lance arrived, and Finn noted he looked normal but saw he had his sister on his shirt, making Finn despair, realizing he was the only normal person in the group. They changed to normal clothes, and Barrett mentioned a famous street game where players tickled a koala's nose to make it sneeze and launch icicles. Mash tried, poking the koala's nose. Barrett mentioned it was hard for beginners to hit the target, but the koala sneezed, and the icicle hit his head. Barrett said he would show him how it was done and poked the koala's nose, causing it to launch an icicle that stabbed Mash's head, so he used a submission move, and they started fighting. After some time, Barrett got beat up. Lance mentioned he wanted to try a new wand, revealing the Divine Visionary candidate exam was fast approaching. Because of the Innocent Zero case, the exam would be held earlier, which Lance thought worked in their favor since they already had enough coins to participate. He knew they would proceed to the final screening if they passed, but warned Mash he wouldn't go easy on him because he wanted to win for his sister. They entered a shop filled with magic wands. The shopkeeper greeted them, recognizing them as academy students. Finn decided to replace his wand, extending his arm and exuding magical energy. A wand responded to him. The shopkeeper added that wands were extensions of a person's body and could improve their capacity to use magic. Lance extended his hand, and a wand flew to him, impressing the shopkeeper because he knew the wand was special. He wondered if Mash would like to try. Finn became worried, knowing Mash would get into trouble without magical power, but Mash decided to do it, extending his arm and noticing a wand on the floor. The shopkeeper revealed it had been sitting there for ages because it was so heavy nobody could lift it. According to legend, elf water was beneath it, used to craft powerful wands, but the shopkeeper thought it was just a legend, saying nobody had lifted the wand for 1,000 years. Mash approached and lifted it, causing water to burst out. He decided to buy it, and the shopkeeper was overjoyed to see the elf water, thanking Mash and telling him to keep it. His friends were surprised, but Lance decided not to buy a wand. They left the shop and saw Tom and Lemon approaching. They had fun together, and at the end of the day, they were tired but realized they were enjoying their lives. Mash admitted he had fun, revealing he never went out with friends before and wanted to do it again. After a few days, Mash counted their gold coins, and Lance thought they were ready for the exam. Mash revealed he wanted to go home before the exam and had told Rayne, who thought he was out of his mind. Meanwhile, Anna dined with the prefect of the Orca dorm, Margaret, thinking Wahlberg was becoming senile, so it was his duty to step up and stop disturbances before they arose. He ordered Margaret to stop Mash from participating in the exam, but she said the task didn't interest her, as all she cared about was excitement. Anna told her Mash defeated Abel, but she didn't care, thinking there was nothing special about Abel. Anna revealed Mash won without magic, causing Margaret to become surprised. Anna ordered her to go wild, promising to clean up after she was done. He left the table and played the piano, saying spring had arrived, but everyone thought he was creepy. Mash returned home, and Burnedead was overjoyed to see him. His friends joined, and Burnedead was surprised Mash had made friends. Barrett mentioned they were more than friends, saying he was Mash's rival, and Lemon told Burnedead she was going to marry Mash, surprising him further. Barrett gave him herbal tea, and Lance said he had something for him, but it was his sister's merchandise. They ran around the house as Burnedead realized they were all unique, thinking Finn was struggling to keep up, but he was happy Mash had friends, revealing he was afraid Mash wouldn't play well with others because he never exposed him to the outside world. Meanwhile, Margaret and her men made their way to Mash, but swords suddenly fell from the sky. They dodged, and Margaret saw a man approaching, wondering if he was Mash's bodyguard. It was Rayne, who said he was just passing by. Margaret recognized him and prepared to fight while Mash and his friends played, completely unaware. In the Magic Academy, dorms were supervised by prefects with skills needed to become a divine visionary. Margaret was one. A few years ago, she dominated a tournament for the middle school division despite being younger. She was excited to fight Rayne, knowing he was a divine visionary, and thought their fight would be interesting. She summoned a piano and played her favorite piece, but Rayne just stared, seeing her as a weirdo. Margaret revealed that despite being powerful, she didn't strive to become a divine visionary, thinking it was just a title, and all she wanted was to become stronger. She prepared for battle, thinking she could defeat Rayne because all he cared about was his position. She launched a barrage of swords, and Margaret used her music to fight back, but they cut to Mash and his friends playing a board game. During Barrett's turn, he landed on a tile saying he was deceived by a beautiful lady, causing him to lose all his money. Lemon rolled the dice and went to jail for restraining her love interests like a stalker, forcing her to skip turns. Lance thought the game was dangerous because it could predict their future. He landed on a tile saying his little sister had a boyfriend, so he needed to return to the start, devastating him. Finn returned a lost item to the police, earning money, but Mash got executed because the public discovered he couldn't use magic. Everyone lost the game and was happy with the result, but Finn thought about Burnedead, thinking he'd be happy because Mash was having fun. They returned to Margaret as her battle with Rayne continued. Margaret defended and countered with a howling sound spell that immobilized Rayne and surrounded him with musical symbols. Margaret explained they would explode if Rayne cast a spell, saying she was looking for excitement because it made life worth living. She thought Rayne's life was boring because he kept meddling in others' business and had completely lost interest in him, telling him to step aside so she could see Mash. Rayne recalled that Mash wanted to become a divine visionary without magic to change the world's perception, and he admired Mash's resolve as he began to unleash his true power. Sean talked to Wahlberg, thinking Rayne would struggle against Margaret, but Wahlberg wasn't bothered, saying Rayne always took care of others. He asked Sean what he knew about magical marks, and Sean mentioned mags with more marks had greater power. Wahlberg affirmed this, saying double-liners had immense potential, but there were extremely rare cases of triple-liners, said to be chosen by the gods. He added the youngest mage to acquire 3 lines was Rayne. Margaret cried tears of joy as Rayne revealed his 3rd line, saying he wanted to help Mash achieve his goal. Mash and his friends continued playing the game, but he stepped on the same tile and died. He left the house to get fresh air, and his friends thought he was depressed because the world was against him, but Mash dashed through the forest to eat his giant cream puff in secret. He noticed a commotion and saw Rayne fighting Margaret, who was impressed Rayne had acquired his 3rd line. But Margaret thought she had already won because her musical symbols would explode the moment Rayne cast a spell. Rayne knew Anna ordered her to target Mash because she was never involved in school affairs but suddenly took interest. He told her Mash couldn't use magic, so the world wanted him dead, saying an ordinary person would question his existence and blame society, but Mash was different because he was willing to fight against his destiny. Margaret said she didn't care, and her men noted she was confident, knowing how powerful she was. The previous year, she distributed all her gold coins to the dorm because she wasn't interested in becoming a divine visionary but set a record by taking 10 gold coins from other students. Margaret's men thought Rayne couldn't do anything because the notes around him would destroy him if he moved, and Margaret imagined the finale. Her men pulled out instruments and helped unleash a powerful spell about to hit Rayne. Margaret thought the fight was over. Sean wondered why triple-liners were considered special, so Wahlberg revealed they possessed immense magical power and could awaken one's true form, allowing them to wield the power of a god. Rayne released a powerful shock wave, overpowering Margaret's magic, and summoned Ares, transforming his wand into a trident. A dark cloud surrounded him as he unleashed his ultimate spell. Margaret tried to block with a barrier, but it destroyed everything in its path. Mash thanked Rayne for his help, but he claimed he was just fighting rabbits in the forest, reminding Mash the selection exam was fast approaching. He told Mash it would be difficult, saying he didn't want him to fail because he wanted to see him achieve his goal. Meanwhile, Margaret survived but was injured, and her men were unconscious. She noted Rayne's magic was overwhelming but thought she had the power to match it, revealing she was thinking about her men's safety, so she used her barrier instead of fighting back. Back in the dorm, Mash decided to give Finn and Barrett 3 gold coins so they could participate in the selection exam, but Finn wasn't happy, thinking he wasn't ready, and Barrett couldn't sleep because he was nervous, thinking about everything he needed to bring. Lance thought about his sister, telling her to wait for him, and Mash was with Burnedead, who revealed he had heard the news and knew Mash was in trouble. He blamed himself, thinking he failed as a father, but Mash told him he was lucky to have him, saying he was happy with his life and thanked Burnedead for always looking after him. The next day, everyone prepared for the exam. There were 3 stages to become a divine visionary, collecting enough coins, then 2 parts of the exam. 5 gold coins were normally needed, but because of Innocent Zero's intervention, the exam was pushed forward, and the requirement was adjusted to 3 gold coins. Margaret was one of the candidates, and Wahlberg saw her as a threat, thinking Mash would struggle. Mash made his way to the arena, but Anna blocked his path, telling him his existence would never be acknowledged by the world. Mash flexed his muscles, imagining they were talking to him, telling him not to give up, which made him feel better, recognizing them as his friends, and he was determined to do his best. He walked past Anna and entered the arena, but everyone recognized him as the boy who couldn't use magic and thought he didn't deserve to be there, telling him to go home. One student told the officials to disqualify Mashle, thinking he might ruin the image of divine visionaries. Finn recalled Mashle would die if he failed, thinking he was under incredible pressure, so he thought about encouraging him but realized Mashle was fine and just wanted a cream puff. The announcer revealed there were 12 candidates and explained the first part: they needed to find a hidden key to escape. Finn thought it would be easy, but she revealed minotaurs would be chasing them, causing him to panic as he realized his life was on the line. The announcer explained the audience could watch using mirrors, and the exam began as candidates were transported to a field. Finn wanted to go home, thinking he was doomed. A minotaur approached one candidate who tried to defend himself, but his spell had no effect. The minotaurs were completely immune to magic. The candidate died and returned to the arena, eliminated. The announcer explained candidates didn't stand a chance against minotaurs. The test determined how well they responded to situations where they were forced to retreat. But Mashle fought one head-on, surprising everyone because it appeared to be in pain and fell to its knees. They thought he was crazy for fighting such a monster, but it got back up, and the announcer explained minotaurs couldn't be killed because they weren't living creatures and could heal instantly, so Mashle decided to run, realizing he couldn't defeat it. Another student named Max cast a spell, shrinking himself to escape. Max mentioned minotaurs had bad eyesight but were extremely sensitive to sound, and he used his spell to return to original size, revealing his magic allowed him to manipulate size. Mashle thanked him, and Max suggested forming an alliance to pass together. Mashle agreed, so they started looking for a key. Max suggested following a minotaur, thinking it would be guarding one. They tried to sneak around, and Mashle lost his footing but somehow maintained his balance. They avoided the minotaur and saw a giant balloon, speculating it contained a key. They saw a device attached, thinking they needed to use it to inflate the balloon until it burst, but as Mashle touched it, it made a loud noise, so the minotaur chased them away. They escaped, and Max thought they should use other methods to destroy the balloon. Mashle suggested tearing it open, but as he held it, it made a strange noise, forcing them to run again. They decided to destroy the device, but the key was still in the balloon, so Max thought it must be floating inside. He realized they needed magic to inflate the balloon, wondering how, and Mashle saw an opening and came up with an idea. Max used his magic to make the balloon bigger, but everyone thought he was an idiot because a larger balloon was harder to destroy. The announcer explained Mashle couldn't enter the balloon because it would make a sound, but he approached and did a headstand. Everyone realized he was going to break dance. He started spinning with ridiculous speed, forming a tornado that forced air into the balloon, causing it to explode. Mashle and Max obtained the key. They cut to Lance using his gravity spell to fill a balloon with air, passing the test. Other candidates also passed, including Barrett, who was hiding, realizing he still hadn't acquired a key, so Barrett decided to help him but noticed his head was bleeding, wondering what happened. They returned to Mashle as he gave the key to Max, saying he should take it. Max realized Mashle was a great person and told him he should have it, pointing him to the exit, saying he already knew how to acquire the next key on his own. He revealed he wanted to help Mashle, explaining he was only doing his job as a senior. Mashle ran to the exit, thanking him, but Max was suddenly attacked as a student named Carpaccio appeared. They returned to the arena as Mashle joined the other candidates, realizing Barrett and Finn had also passed. Lance wondered how he destroyed the balloon without magic, so he explained he had help but wondered why Max gave him the key, thinking he must have his own reasons. At that moment, Max joined them but suddenly collapsed. The announcer revealed Carpaccio would take the final spot. Everyone wondered why he harmed Max, and he mentioned he didn't need weaklings, so he thought he could do anything to them. Mashle threatened to punch him, telling him to stop. Finn recognized Carpaccio as the top student. A girl gave him a drink. He took the cup and approached Mashle, throwing it in his face, but Mashle caught it with his cup and used it to make a protein shake. He drank it, saying protein timing was important for his muscles, and told Carpaccio not to call people weaklings, claiming he had never met a person stronger than him. He tried to explain strength was difficult to define but got confused because he didn't know the meaning. Carpaccio prepared to take him on, but the announcer interrupted, telling them to stop fighting. They moved to the next part of the exam as 3 magic crystals appeared, dividing candidates into teams. The announcer explained they would have a team battle, each candidate would get 1 crystal to defend, and a team would be eliminated if they ran out of crystals. Mash didn't understand, so Barrett told him they just needed to smash the opposing team's crystals. Finn was worried because Lance wasn't in their team, so he wondered what they should do. The candidates' crystals were distributed, and the announcer informed them they were fragile and needed care. Finn thought he wasn't strong enough to defend his crystal but noted Mash and Barrett were his teammates, thinking he could count on them, but they both instantly broke their crystals because they were too slippery. Finn thought their team was doomed, but Barrett assured him they would protect his crystal. The exam began, and everyone was sent to a labyrinth, but Finn realized he was alone and fell into despair, thinking they would lose. It was explained that 13 ancient wands in the magic realm, known as the Master Canes, only chose mags with extraordinary talent and granted blessings out of this world, making them a force to be reckoned with. They returned to the exam as Finn continued to despair, and his teammates decided to look for him, thinking he was in trouble. He knew the team relied on him because they had 1 crystal left, so he needed to guard it with his life, but at that moment, he heard a commotion and saw Carpaccio attacking another candidate, wondering why there was a knife in his shoulder. He started moving it, causing his opponent to suffer, and mentioned talent wasn't evenly distributed, so talentless mags needed to know their place. He crushed the boy's crystal. Finn noted he was dangerous and wanted to avoid him at all costs, using his magic to conceal his presence. He thought he avoided Carpaccio, but he suddenly appeared behind him, summoning a goddess and preparing to attack. Finn freaked out, knowing he was no match, but he stopped, recognizing Finn as an average student, so Carpaccio wondered how he became a candidate. He ordered Finn to hand over his crystal, but he refused, knowing Mash would die if he failed, so Finn prepared to fight but suddenly started bleeding. Carpaccio asked what he was trying to do, telling him not to resist because he didn't stand a chance. They cut to Margaret as she noted 3 interesting candidates, Lance as the top transfer student, Mash as the boy who couldn't use magic, and Carpaccio as the top student, knowing he was a prodigy chosen by a Master Cane. Margaret thought he was the most talented mage in the academy and felt grateful to meet him before he reached his full potential. They returned to Finn as he pretended to cast a spell, distracting Carpaccio, but nothing happened, and he started running away. Carpaccio chased him, but Finn used his magic, causing Carpaccio to be teleported away as he realized Finn switched places with the candidate he defeated. Finn continued to run, thinking he escaped, but his leg started bleeding, and he fell as Carpaccio caught up. He started torturing Finn, stabbing himself and transferring the damage to Finn, but he refused to give up, saying he knew he was a loser but would never abandon his friends. He tried to fight back but missed, and Carpaccio easily defeated him, threatening to kill him. Everyone thought they were about to witness a murder, but Mash suddenly arrived, smashing Carpaccio against the wall. Mash thanked Finn for protecting the crystal and apologized for being late, but his head started bleeding as Carpaccio recovered, saying he couldn't feel pain because his wand absorbed it for him. Mash hit him, but the damage was reflected. Carpaccio explained it was useless because his magic transferred damage, he stabbed himself, his wound healed, and Mash took damage. He explained he received the blessing of a Master Cane at birth, and its powers were always active, so he had never experienced pain. He added he wanted to know what it felt like but thought Mash was no match. He started stabbing himself, causing Mash to bleed, but Mash charged and attacked, but the damage was reflected, and Finn thought he had no chance. Carpaccio said a person's destiny was determined by the abilities they were born with, and since Mash couldn't use magic, he should give up and accept his fate. He mentioned Finn was nothing like his brother because he had no talent and didn't deserve to be a candidate. Mash told Carpaccio he had a point, saying Finn was weak but had the courage to defend the crystal despite knowing he was no match, so Mash wouldn't allow him to look down on Finn. Mash launched a relentless assault, enduring the force of his blows, thinking about pushing Carpaccio's healing powers past their limit. Carpaccio was disappointed, thinking his tactic would never work, but he was surprised to see a crack on the goddess, realizing it was struggling to absorb the damage. Mash continued his beatdown and shattered the goddess's mask. Carpaccio noted this had never happened before. Mash told him he didn't stand a chance, asking if he had the courage to fight, and he became excited, realizing he had finally found a worthy opponent. The goddess went berserk, seeing Mash as a threat, and tried to kill him, launching countless needles, but he dodged them all. Carpaccio tried to stop him, stabbing him repeatedly, but he wasn't slowing down. Mash revealed his iron wand, using his hand to sculpt it into a racket. He launched a ball with ridiculous strength, targeting the opening in the goddess's armor. It continued launching needles, but he dodged them all, and everyone was surprised as he continued attacking the goddess while evading. The ball crashed into the goddess, and its head began to crack, unable to withstand the punishment. Mash leaped into the air, hitting the ball with all his might, and it pierced through the goddess, causing it to explode. Carpaccio couldn't believe it, and Mash slammed the racket into his head, knocking him out. Everyone was stunned because they knew Carpaccio was an extremely powerful mage, but Mash defeated him without magic. Mash thanked Finn for defending the crystal, saying he still had a chance to enjoy life because of him, and Finn was happy to hear this. Carpaccio regained consciousness, experiencing pain for the first time and realizing it was terrifying. He thought about the suffering Finn endured, wondering how he withstood it, so Carpaccio realized he was wrong because, in terms of inner strength, he was no match for Finn. Carpaccio's teammates prepared to fight Margaret, but she used her sense of hearing and told them they were weak. She revealed she could assess their powers by listening to their pitch, saying they were nothing compared to the best mags she encountered, so she advised them to surrender their crystals. They reminded her it was 2 against 1 and combined their powers, thinking they could defeat her, but she used a basic spell and easily overpowered them, so they summoned shields, trying to defend with everything they had, but she easily broke through, blowing them away. They wondered how a student could be so powerful, and she told them her magic was on another level as she crushed their crystals. With Carpaccio's team eliminated, the announcer revealed the exam was over, and candidates returned to the arena. Barrett celebrated with Mash, calling him the MVP of the qualifying round, but he didn't care, saying he just wanted a cream puff. They realized the arena had fallen silent as Wahlberg noted Mash's greatest trial was about to begin because he would be fighting Margaret. Margaret became excited, saying she looked forward to their fight, and Mash touched his chest, mentioning his muscles were telling him to be careful. The divine visionary, Sid, approached Wahlberg, telling him Mash was in trouble, mentioning Rayne wouldn't be a divine visionary if he went up against Margaret during his exam. Sid revealed it was his duty to examine each individual's talent and believed Margaret was the most talented candidate. He knew Wahlberg wanted Mash to win but thought Mash didn't stand a chance because Margaret was too powerful. A boy wanted Mash to lose and begged Margaret to win, saying he was willing to put laxatives in Mash's drink, but she blew him away, threatening to kill him if he ruined the fun. She saw Anna in the room, telling him not to interfere, so the boy realized Margaret was serious about the match because she was willing to do anything to ensure it was fair. They cut to Mash as he revealed he started lifting because Burnedead ordered him to, and he recalled hating the feeling but made excellent progress. He explained his life's purpose was to lift the heaviest weights, thinking the human body was made to pump iron, but Finn found him weird because he wasn't talking to anyone. Lemon started her monologue, revealing she continued to be an emotional burden because she was in love with Mash. Barrett suddenly approached, saying he could be her lover, but she rejected him, devastating him. Finn wondered what was happening, noting his friends were weird. Mash realized it was time for his protein shake and drank it, explaining his muscles needed nutrients to grow. Sid joined them, and Mash remembered him as one of the divine visionaries who bullied him. Sid revealed he was interested in Mash, asking if he wanted to play a game before his fight with Margaret, but he declined, saying he needed time to rest. Sid explained he was head of the Magic Talent Administration and needed to assess Mash's capabilities, saying Mash wouldn't become a divine visionary unless he acknowledged him, so Mash agreed to play. Sid explained the rules: players must not look in the direction their opponent pointed. Mash accepted the challenge and started pointing everywhere, but Sid used his magic, creating a circle around Mash, explaining he needed to stay in the circle until the game ended. Sid said he must survive for 3 rounds, winning if he didn't face the wrong direction for 3 seconds after the round began. They began the first round. Sid pointed upwards, so Mash looked down, but a magic arrow appeared, about to hit his forehead. He dodged without looking up. They proceeded to the second round. Sid pointed to his sides, summoning magical rings to attack Mash. His friends noted it was impossible to dodge, but he deflected them with his fists. Sid pulled out his magic sword, enchanted with dark flame that would consume anything it touched, so Mash wouldn't be able to deflect it. Finn told him it was too dangerous, but he didn't seem to care. The final round began. Sid pointed in 3 directions. Mash's friends realized he would lose unless he looked down. Sid charged with his sword, launching a combination of attacks, but Mash dodged them all. Sid was about to hit his head, but Mash anchored his feet to the ground and jumped away, taking the entire circle with him as he dodged while keeping his head down. The round was about to end, but a bird suddenly took his cream puff, forcing him to look to his side, and he realized he screwed up, but Sid told him it didn't count, saying the result was a draw. Sid walked away, and they learned he hesitated when he attacked Mash because he was planning to block the sword with his head, so Sid thought he was crazy, wondering why he was so determined to become a divine visionary because the title wasn't worth dying for. But Sid finally acknowledged his talent, hoping he would achieve his full potential. After some time, the announcer revealed it was time for the final exam, explaining candidates would fight until one collapsed. For the first match, Mash would fight Margaret, and Finn wanted Mash to win because he was fighting for his future. Wahlberg noted Margaret was one of the most talented mags in history, so he knew Mash was in trouble. Margaret told him he was going to lose, and the announcer was about to begin the match, but he took out a cream puff, saying he needed to replenish calories before his workout. Margaret took his fried shrimp and repeatedly dipped it into sauce, explaining it was made to eat the sauce. Everyone realized he was a weirdo, and Barrett thought he was a threat, recalling the craziest mags were usually the most powerful. Margaret unleashed his power, creating a pillar of light, and everyone was surprised, knowing his power equaled the divine visionaries. Mash charged in, but Margaret fired an energy ball. Mash's friends thought he would deflect it because it was just a basic spell, but as he tried to stop it, he realized it was too heavy and was pushed back, causing an explosion. Everyone thought he crashed into the wall but realized he disappeared. He suddenly clung to Margaret, surprising everyone as he used his ridiculously powerful legs to jump to the sky. He used his spine magic to attack, slamming Margaret into the ground with tremendous force. Everyone felt the impact, thinking Margaret was done for, and Barrett wondered how Mash escaped the energy ball. Finn revealed he ran backwards when he realized he couldn't deflect it, allowing him to escape before it hit the wall. Barrett thought this was ridiculous, thinking Mash's skills didn't belong in the Magic Academy, but he decided not to think about it. As the dust cleared, everyone was surprised Margaret wasn't injured, wondering how it was possible. Sid noted he created a sound cushion before hitting the ground, allowing him to survive the impact. The audience was amazed by Mash's move, thinking he could use magic, but Sid wondered why they weren't calling him out, knowing he didn't use a spell. Margaret mentioned he wanted to enjoy the fight and started launching energy balls as Mash ran around, evading them all. He appeared behind Margaret, preparing to punch him, but he managed to react in time, pointing his wand at Mash's head. Barrett thought Margaret would fire an energy ball, but he stopped, saying he knew Mash was holding back because he was trying to protect something, so he revealed he had a cream puff. Margaret mentioned he wanted Mash to fight with everything he had, saying he should set it aside, so he surrendered it, wondering if Margaret was doing this because of his principles, but he revealed he just wanted to have fun. The crowd went wild, but Mash's friends noted the moment was completely useless. Lance noted Mash and Margaret were still holding back, testing each other's abilities. Sid knew about Margaret's ultimate spell, knowing it would give him the advantage, noting the fight would end when he activated it. They continued the fight as Margaret told Mash to show him what he was capable of. Margaret used a spell to create a magical fist and launched it at Mash, who tried to stop it, but it passed through his body and destroyed the arena drones. Margaret revealed his magic couldn't be stopped by physical attacks, saying Mash was at a disadvantage. He proceeded to assault Mash with the same spell, pushing him back as everyone noted the fight was one-sided. Mash realized he couldn't block the spell because he could feel the damage inside his body, and Margaret mentioned he was disappointed, saying he wasn't enjoying their battle. He summoned an orchestra, causing a ring of light to appear as countless instruments emerged from the ground, surrounding Mash. Margaret told him it was time to end the fight. The ground shook as the instruments played simultaneously, shattering the ground, and everyone thought Mash was defeated, calling Margaret a genius. Sid noted he didn't even have to use his full power, but as the dust cleared, he realized Mash was gone. He appeared below Margaret, pulling him into the ground. Mash emerged to the surface, stunning everyone, wondering how he survived the orchestra. Finn revealed he saw everything. Mash dug into the ground before the spell hit him, allowing him to escape the sound waves. But Finn knew it was ridiculous, wondering how Mash moved faster than the speed of sound. Mash used his quadriceps magic, kicking Margaret with incredible force, and everyone thought the fight was over, but he continued to assault Margaret, pummeling him while he was down. Everyone wondered why he was doing this, thinking it was extremely brutal, but Sid knew he was making the right move because Margaret hadn't been defeated yet. He mentioned he was finally enjoying the battle, forcing Mash to retreat as he said he would fight in his true form. He used his metamorphosis spell, surrounding himself with magical energy as his body began to transform, and a bright flash covered the arena as Margaret transformed into a kid. He mentioned Mash forced him to reveal his true form, and everyone was amazed, but Mash didn't care, thinking he looked ridiculous. They cut to Grant as he wondered how Mash was doing. Sean suddenly entered, telling him Innocent Zero was on the move, and recalling Mash was the target, so he told Sean to call security, saying they would need Anna and Sid to buy time. He wondered who was leading the group, but Sean revealed it was Innocent Zero himself, so Grant realized everyone was in trouble. They returned to the arena as Margaret revealed he could unleash his true power in his current form. He snapped his finger and suddenly appeared beside Mash, causing him to freak out. Everyone thought Margaret teleported, and he was about to explain his powers, but Mash tried to punch him, so he snapped again and disappeared. Mash realized he was already far away, and he explained his powers had expanded as he attacked Mash in an instant, revealing he had become sound itself. He continued moving around, repeatedly snapping his fingers. Sid noted he was moving at the speed of sound, knowing Mash would struggle to catch him, and he proceeded to attack Mash with a devastating combo, causing him to crash to the ground, but he got back up, refusing to give up. So Margaret moved at the speed of sound, preparing to land the finishing blow, but Mash dodged it, surprising everyone. He appeared behind Margaret, who wondered how he did it, but Sid knew what happened. Sound travels faster through a solid surface, so Mash touched the wall, allowing him to feel the sound before the attack hit, and he used his incredible reflexes to evade. He prepared to strike Margaret, who realized his fingers were covered in sauce, so he couldn't make a sound with them. Mash hit him with a powerful attack, but Lance knew it wouldn't be enough to defeat him, and he got back up, telling Mash he was a worthy opponent, so he decided to unleash his ultimate spell, the Death Gong, creating a pillar of light as he summoned a magical bell. He explained anyone who heard it would lose consciousness, and it would ring in 1 minute, affecting everyone within 2 kilometers. The only way to stop it was to destroy his wand, but Mash's friends knew this wouldn't be easy because Margaret was faster. Barrett wondered if they would be affected, but Lance explained they were safe, saying it would only affect Mash. Lance knew Mash was in trouble because he was only able to hit Margaret while he was on the offensive, so Mash couldn't use the same tactic to catch him. He started running away as Mash pursued, trying to stop him before he activated his spell, but Mash struggled to keep up because he was moving too fast. Margaret mentioned Mash had a few seconds left, so his friends became worried, thinking he would lose. The bell lit up as it was about to be activated, but Mash was still struggling to catch Margaret and ended up crashing to the ground. Margaret told him he had 10 seconds left, but he suddenly grabbed the arena floor and lifted it with incredible strength, causing a massive slab of concrete to fall on Margaret. Mash charged in as spectators noted he was trying to prevent Margaret from escaping by forcing him to move sideways. He observed Mash's movements and decided to move right, thinking Mash wouldn't catch him, but he suddenly kicked away, allowing him to keep up with Margaret's speed. But he thought Mash would never catch him because he already gained enough distance, but Mash stopped him with his pinky, pulling him back and causing him to drop his wand. Mash shattered it with his hand, and the bell disappeared, impressing everyone. Margaret mentioned he was amazing because he could defeat the best mags without magic. He accepted defeat, and everyone celebrated, but Anna wasn't happy with the result. However, everyone suddenly experienced a tremor, causing panic as the sky shattered, allowing a black dragon to enter the arena. A mysterious man rode it, and Wahlberg recognized him as Innocent Zero. He used his magic to stop time, preventing everyone from moving as he made his way to Mash, saying he had been looking forward to meeting him. He was happy to learn Mash was still alive, calling him his son, and revealed he needed to absorb Mash to achieve his complete form. But Wahlberg stopped him, and they learned he could move in stop time, saying he wouldn't let him take Mash without a fight. He explained that as headmaster, he would protect the students with his life. Innocent Zero's companion prepared to attack, but Wahlberg glared at him, and he imagined himself getting sliced in half, so he panicked, wondering what just happened. Wahlberg laughed, telling him to back off, and he became intimidated, but Innocent Zero told Wahlberg not to bully his friends. Wahlberg asked about his goal, and he revealed he wanted to become a perfect human. Wahlberg wondered why he was willing to sacrifice countless lives to achieve this, telling him his actions caused suffering, but he didn't care, thinking everyone was made to serve him, and Mash was created to be absorbed, so he would take him away. Wahlberg found this ridiculous, saying Mash was destined to become the beacon of hope for the world, so he wouldn't allow it. He revealed his magical lines as he prepared to fight Innocent Zero, who unleashed an ominous aura, saying they hadn't fought in a long time. Wahlberg summoned his wand, Uranus, while Innocent Zero called Kronos, and they were about to unleash their powers, but Wahlberg was surprised as Innocent Zero summoned demons, saying he just needed to absorb Mash, so he didn't care what happened to others. But Wahlberg used his magic, allowing the candidates and divine visionaries to move, telling them to deal with the demons while he fought Innocent Zero. So Barrett and Lance used their magic, destroying demons, but they had no idea what was happening, thinking they just needed to fight for their lives. Sid charged in, trying to stab a demon, but it stopped his sword, so he unleashed his dark flames and proceeded to slaughter them. He was about to get overwhelmed, but Anna protected him with his sand magic, mentioning the demons had power equivalent to a double-liner. He told Sid to protect Wahlberg, but more demons appeared, blocking their path. Lance and Barrett were surrounded but continued to fight. Sid launched his flames, burning the demons blocking his path, and Anna fought, summoning sand spikes to impale them. Innocent Zero wondered if Wahlberg's students could defeat the demons, but Wahlberg told him to focus on their fight as he teleported them away. They were floating in the sky as Wahlberg mentioned they could fight without interruptions. Barrett and Lance continued to struggle against demons, but they realized a tower was emerging from the ground, and they saw Cell summoning an enormous ball of spikes, thinking he was planning to kill everyone. Giant demons appeared as everyone realized the demons were trying to kill them but were completely ignoring Mash, so Margaret thought they created a trap to capture him. Barrett wondered how Margaret came to that conclusion, so he mentioned it was just a woman's intuition, and Barrett realized he was a woman at heart. Barrett told Mash to stop Cell because the demons were ignoring him, so Mash left the arena and rushed to the tower. Cell thought Mash wouldn't reach him since he was on top, but he was surprised as Mash destroyed the tower, bringing him to the ground. He remembered Mash explaining it was useless to destroy the tower because his magic wouldn't disappear unless he was defeated, but Mash didn't recognize him, causing him to become surprised. Mash dug through his memories but still had no memory of him. Back in the arena, everyone continued to fight demons, but Barrett saw a baby crying and became confused. The baby suddenly used a spell, transforming him into an infant, and the baby returned to his adult form, revealing he was a criminal named Sitter. He explained his magic turned targets into infants, thinking Barrett was defenseless as a baby. Barrett didn't believe him, trying to use his magic but realized he couldn't, so he started running away. He knew he was in trouble, so he approached Lance, trying to ask for help, but he had no idea what Barrett was saying because he lost his ability to speak clearly. Sitter tried to attack them, but Lance dodged his spell, realizing he turned Barrett into a baby. Demons tried to attack Lance, but he used his gravity spell to take them out, realizing he needed to protect Barrett during the fight. He continued fighting but suddenly realized Barrett was gone because he was distracted by a toy. Lance rushed to his side but ended up getting hit by Sitter's spell and also became a baby. He started arguing with Barrett and they dodged the demon's attacks as they realized their bodies were reacting to the toy. Sitter thought they were done for because they lost their magical powers, so he thought about bullying them, ordering the demons to attack, but Lance used his gravity spell, smashing them to the ground as Sitter realized Lance was still powerful as an infant. Barrett noted he was able to compensate for his lack of magical power by concentrating his magic on a smaller area and was impressed, realizing he was a genius. They returned to their original forms, but Lance told Barrett not to let his guard down because the battle was far from over. Meanwhile, Grant and Sean made their way to the arena as Sean wondered how Wahlberg knew Innocent Zero. Grant revealed the magic realm was shaped by a man named Adam, considered the most powerful mage in history, and Wahlberg and Innocent Zero were his best students, their powers said to be equal. Grant mentioned Innocent Zero chose to attack, thinking he must have a plan, and knew Wahlberg was their only chance of defeating him, thinking they were doomed if he lost. They returned to Innocent Zero as he removed his hood, revealing he had no face. Wahlberg was surprised, asking if he had abandoned his humanity, but he became offended, thinking Wahlberg saw him as a monster. He created his face, telling Wahlberg he was still human, and revealed his goals, to absorb Mash and kill Wahlberg. He used his Living Dead spell, creating a magical clock that started spinning with ridiculous speed, and a coffin appeared as Wahlberg realized he was using a forbidden spell. They cut to Barrett as he wondered how Mash would defeat Cell because he was only able to do it with Abel's help during their last fight, but he was fighting alone, so Barrett became worried, thinking he was in trouble. Cell launched countless projectiles, but he was surprised to see Mash dodge them all, realizing he was running on top of them. Cell attacked Mash with everything he had, but Mash still avoided them and closed the distance, delivering a devastating blow. Cell was knocked down, wondering how Mash dodged his magic as he recalled how Mash struggled during their last encounter, but Mash explained he remembered Cell's magic, so he already knew how to counter it. It was learned that Adam introduced magic to the world and created the Bureau of Magic, making him the most influential mage of all time. During his later years, he focused on providing social assistance to those who couldn't use magic and taught his students to protect the weak, calling it the responsibility of a powerful mage. They returned to Wahlberg as the chain surrounding the coffin broke, and it slowly opened. Wahlberg glimpsed a man's face and was shocked as the coffin completely opened, revealing it was Adam. Innocent Zero explained his magic brought people back from the dead, saying he turned Adam into his mindless slave. Wahlberg condemned his action, but a mage named Necros prepared to fight him, revealing he specialized in manipulating bodies. Wahlberg prepared to attack, but Necros used Adam's body, reminding Wahlberg Adam was the greatest mage of all time. He unleashed a dark energy beam, and Wahlberg struggled to defend himself as Innocent Zero reminded him Adam died of old age, but his spell summoned Adam in his prime, thinking Wahlberg didn't stand a chance because his magical power was unrivaled to this day. In a flashback, Wahlberg talked to Adam, who told him about the mage's responsibility to protect the weak, but Wahlberg thought the idea was questionable because people should strive to become stronger and protect themselves. Adam admitted he had a point but told Wahlberg not to question his ideals, reminding him he was just a student, but Adam explained he was joking, telling Wahlberg he was still young and would figure it out when he grew older because he had immense potential. Back in the present, Wahlberg managed to stop the spell, surprising everyone as he mentioned Adam was the greatest man he had ever known, but the times had changed, so the past was no longer important, saying he was willing to fight Adam to defend the academy. He claimed that despite his old age, he was still in his prime. Necros knew he was currently the strongest mage alive but thought Adam was better. Adam used his magic, creating a ball of energy that destroyed everything in its path, and Necros explained Adam's dark magic returned everything to the void, thinking Wahlberg didn't stand a chance. Adam summoned a magical snake, and Wahlberg barely avoided it as Necros noted he wasn't using magic, thinking it was because his spells were useless against dark magic. Necros called Adam the best toy ever, saying he had a new favorite, and Adam summoned more magical snakes, surrounding Wahlberg, but he managed to destroy them. Adam unleashed a dark energy beam, but Wahlberg countered with the nails of Uranus, and it cut through Adam's magic, slicing through Necros, who realized he lost his arm. Wahlberg revealed his magic-controlled space, telling Necros his arm went to a distant spot but assured him it wouldn't kill him. He thought Wahlberg removed the space the dark magic occupied, so he thought about covering a larger area, and Adam used his magic, attacking Wahlberg from all directions, but he managed to defend himself, causing Necros to become surprised because he was using the strongest mage in history but was still at a disadvantage. He still thought dark magic was the strongest and used Adam's ultimate skill, creating an enormous ball of darkness. He launched it at Wahlberg, but he laughed, revealing he had been relying on his wand but would start using his magic. The nails of Uranus formed a diamond, and he fired a massive beam of light that overpowered Adam's magic, so Necros panicked, trying to escape, but ended up getting hit, causing him to disappear. Wahlberg remembered Adam saying he would inherit all his teachings, and Innocent Zero approached, ready to take him on. They returned to the arena as Barrett and Lance continued to fight demons, but there were too many, and Sid thought they were trying to deplete everyone's magical powers, but Anna told him to stop complaining, realizing they had no choice but to keep fighting, knowing they needed to defeat the demons to protect the students. Mash talked to Cell, wondering why he was being targeted, so Cell told him about the forbidden magic of body construction, revealing Innocent Zero planned to achieve immortality by sacrificing 6 blood relatives. He explained Innocent Zero prepared 6 children as vessels, and Mash was one of them, telling him he was made to help achieve his goal. He said Mash should be honored because he would become part of the strongest being in the world, thinking it was similar to how muscles need protein to improve, but Cell became confused because he couldn't understand what Mash was saying. Mash thought the information was too much to handle, thinking he must be dreaming, so he decided to take a nap and immediately fell asleep, but Cell woke him up, and he became disappointed, realizing he wasn't dreaming. He asked Cell if he was one of Innocent Zero's children, but he explained he was just a clone created when Innocent Zero gave his blood to a corpse. Cell mentioned he was created to serve his master and revealed he was jealous of Mash because he would be absorbed. He thought Mash didn't deserve to be part of the strongest being, seeing him as trash, but he suddenly punched Cell, knocking him down. Mash told him to bring it on, and he thought Mash had incredible power because he was created by Innocent Zero, so he decided to unleash his full power, summoning Nephistus as his wand exuded a powerful aura. Mash wondered what was happening, so he explained his wand's full power had been unleashed, and he created a pillar of energy that grabbed everyone's attention. He revealed Innocent Zero only needed Mash's heart, so he planned to cut his body into pieces and save just his heart. Cell used 2 of his blades to attack, and Mash barely avoided them. They were sharp enough to slice through buildings. Cell explained his blades could slice through anything because they were made of diamonds. The blades returned and pursued Mash, but he easily dodged them, thinking he needed to ignore them to defeat Cell, but as he continued to dodge, he realized Cell had 2 blades on standby, planning to use them to defend himself. Mash thought he would be in trouble if Cell used them. Cell wondered if Mash was afraid, saying he would kill everyone if Mash ran away. He activated the ball of spikes, and it suddenly started growing as he explained summoning Nephistus increased his magical power. He told Mash everyone would die once the ball hit the arena, telling him to give up. Cell launched his blades at Mash, but he started running away, and Cell wondered if he would abandon his friends, but he suddenly appeared behind him, revealing he ran around the academy to escape the blades. Cell became surprised, realizing Mash was incredibly fast, and thought Mash would take him out before his blades arrived, so he decided to harden his skin, making it as tough as diamond. The blades hit Mash, causing him to fall, and Cell proceeded to stomp on him, but he suddenly realized Mash was covered in cream puffs. He mentioned there was a party and proceeded to stuff Cell's mouth with cream puffs, so he became confused, wondering why Mash was still alive. He was about to suffocate, and they learned he was just hallucinating because Mash used his chokehold magic to knock him out. Mash strangled Cell when he saw the blades, contracting his biceps to put pressure on the carotid artery, preventing oxygen from entering Cell's brain and knocking him out instantly. The ball shattered, saving everyone, and Mash explained he cared about the school, so he was willing to fight anyone who threatened to destroy it. They returned to Grant and Sean as they were about to reach the arena, so Grant started fixing his hair, thinking he needed to look presentable because he was one of the hottest men in the world. Sean thought he was ridiculous, reminding him they were still flying. They approached the arena, but Sean suddenly stopped, and Grant wondered what was happening. He noted everything had stopped moving, so he realized they entered an area where a powerful mage had stopped time. He thought he could still move because he had immense magical power, but Sean wasn't as talented, so he decided to leave him, making his way to the arena. He joined Anna and Sid, saying they did a good job protecting the students. Sid explained the candidates helped them out. Grant asked about Mash, so he revealed Mash defeated Cell, and they saw him eating a cream puff to replenish his energy. Grant was impressed, but Anna explained Wahlberg was fighting Innocent Zero, and Sid wondered where they were, knowing Wahlberg used magic to leave the arena. Mash volunteered to look for him, saying he would use his muscles to find Wahlberg, and he dashed away, but Anna didn't expect him to succeed. He thought they would find Innocent Zero if they interrogated Cell, so he prepared to attack him, but a barrier protected him, and he was suddenly transported away. They knew he couldn't have used the spell because he was unconscious, so they realized someone was protecting him and decided to stay in the arena, thinking the students weren't safe yet. Grant wanted to fight Innocent Zero but thought about Wahlberg's ideals, knowing protecting the students was the top priority, and he knew Wahlberg was stronger, so he decided to trust Mash, thinking he was strong enough to save him. Innocent Zero thought about Wahlberg's magic, knowing it was one of his strongest spells, so he thought he hadn't lost his touch. He was determined to win to protect the students, and Innocent Zero tried to stop time, but he used his magic to remove the space around him, causing him to disappear. He appeared behind Innocent Zero, trying to end the fight but missed, and Innocent Zero used time magic on Wahlberg's arm, causing it to age rapidly. He told Wahlberg his legs were next, and he realized Innocent Zero was far stronger than he used to be, calling him a monster. Wahlberg thought about cutting the space around him and cast a spell using the nails of Uranus to cover the entire area, doing his best to ensure Innocent Zero couldn't dodge it, but he still evaded, telling Wahlberg he didn't stand a chance. He realized Innocent Zero stopped time before the spell hit him, and he used his time magic again, causing Wahlberg's arm to turn to dust. Innocent Zero told him resistance was futile because there was a massive power gap between them, saying he became stronger by focusing on himself while Wahlberg was obsessed with protecting others. In a flashback, Wahlberg was lonely as a child because he always got sick and his grades were average. He thought there was nothing special about him, so he lacked confidence and decided not to go to school because he didn't want to interact with the outside world, thinking nobody would like him. But Adam visited him, telling him random facts and advising him to go to school. Wahlberg rejected him, but he continued for several days, so Wahlberg became upset, trying to get him to leave, but he still refused to give up. After some time, Wahlberg became curious, wondering why Adam was doing this, so he explained he couldn't leave Wahlberg alone, causing him to become happy because he realized someone cared, and he decided to start going to school. Back in the present, Wahlberg told Innocent Zero he knew what it was like to be selfish, but he was saved by the kindness of others, so he refused to abandon his students. He unleashed his full power, explaining he wouldn't change his ideals even if he died, and he used his ultimate skill, Uranus Incarnation. Uranus transformed into an enormous being as Innocent Zero noted Wahlberg's magic hadn't declined with age. Wahlberg explained Uranus had reached the pinnacle of its power, and Innocent Zero tried to use his spell but realized he couldn't as Wahlberg explained his magic wouldn't work within the domain. He prepared to destroy everything around him, and Uranus charged up as he told Innocent Zero their rivalry was about to come to an end, but time suddenly stopped as Innocent Zero revealed Wahlberg's domain couldn't stop his control of time, thinking Wahlberg was no match. He launched an attack, and Wahlberg got stabbed, coughing up blood as Innocent Zero explained he suffered a fatal injury, thinking he wouldn't survive. But as time resumed, Innocent Zero realized Uranus was still charging up. Wahlberg explained his skill unleashed the true power of the wand, and he had stored all his magical power into it, so the spell wouldn't stop even if he died, telling Innocent Zero it was all over for him because he was willing to risk everything to save his students, wanting to see them achieve their dreams. He had been watching Mash and his friends and knew their goals were selfless, thinking the world would be a better place if they succeeded. He wanted to see a world filled with kindness, saying power wasn't everything, as people were suffering because of their weakness, thinking they didn't deserve this, so he wanted to make the ultimate sacrifice as an example, thinking it was necessary to achieve his goal. Uranus unleashed its full power, causing a powerful explosion that created a massive ball of light. Everyone saw it, thinking it was a beautiful scene, and the divine visionaries recognized it as spatial magic, knowing Wahlberg sacrificed his life to defeat Innocent Zero, but it suddenly started shrinking, causing them to worry because it was supposed to continue expanding, so they realized something was wrong. It completely disappeared, and Wahlberg was surprised to see Innocent Zero, realizing he reversed time to counter the spell. He summoned dark arrows, using them to attack Wahlberg, who tried to defend himself but ended up getting stabbed, so he dropped his wand and was about to fall, but Innocent Zero caught him, telling him he lost because he lived his life for others, saying he should have focused on getting stronger instead. Innocent Zero was about to deal the finishing blow, and Wahlberg thought it was all over, thinking he failed Adam, so he started crying, but Mash suddenly arrived to save him. He reminded Wahlberg of their first encounter, where Wahlberg asked what he would do if he fought an overpowered opponent. He told Wahlberg he would still fight regardless and challenged Innocent Zero. Wahlberg thought he was cool but saw Mash's legs, thinking it was ruining the moment. Back in the arena, everyone wondered why Wahlberg's spell disappeared, and Sid realized Innocent Zero was able to rewind time, so Grant decided to look for Wahlberg, telling Sid to take charge, but he knew Innocent Zero was stronger, so he thought he would have a hard time. They returned to Mash as Wahlberg told him to retreat because he didn't stand a chance, but he explained he was raised to be kind to the elderly, and Wahlberg couldn't believe Mash was thinking about his safety. Innocent Zero told Mash to join him, but he refused, so Innocent Zero decided to take him by force. He cast a spell that surrounded Mash and Wahlberg with dark energy, revealing he had been experimenting on his body and acquired the ability to steal magic. He had obtained Adam's dark magic and was now taking Wahlberg's powers. Mash saved Wahlberg, but Innocent Zero said it was too late because he had already stolen his magic. He started controlling Uranus and used Wahlberg's spell, creating a beam of light that erased everything in its path. Wahlberg was surprised, and Innocent Zero thought he had gained the power to rule the world, threatening to destroy Mash, but he suddenly charged in, delivering a devastating combo. Innocent Zero completely endured it and stopped Mash, saying his attacks were useless. Innocent Zero tried to restrain him, but he escaped, and Innocent Zero explained Mash was out of his league, telling him to give up, but he suddenly felt strange and started to lose control as Wahlberg explained his body couldn't handle his magical power, so it was acting up. Wahlberg recalled their conversation before they started fighting and realized Innocent Zero wanted to absorb Mash because he was trying to obtain the perfect body. He believed Mash was created to be absorbed, but Wahlberg disagreed, saying Mash had the right to decide how to live his life. Innocent Zero found this ridiculous, explaining Mash had no right to live because he couldn't even use magic. He explained Adam tried to make the world a better place, but despite his influence, he couldn't get mags to accept non-magic users, so Innocent Zero thought Mash would always be an outcast. He unleashed a beam of light, and Wahlberg realized he couldn't dodge it, but Mash saved him, and he was surprised by Mash's speed, but he noted Innocent Zero was far stronger, thinking they didn't stand a chance. Mash reminded him magic was everything, and the strongest magic user was evil, so he believed the world would accept him after he defeated Innocent Zero, but he thought Mash was being ignorant, calling himself the strongest being in the world. He opened a portal, explaining he needed to adapt to his body, so he decided to retreat, but before leaving, he cast a spell that caused a beam of dark energy to descend from the sky, but it broke into tiny particles before reaching the arena. The demons disappeared, so everyone wondered what was happening, thinking Innocent Zero must have a plan. They sensed a powerful presence as the demon energies gathered outside, causing an enormous monster to appear. Mash and Wahlberg saw it from a distance, and Innocent Zero told Mash to prove his strength by defeating it, thinking he didn't stand a chance. Innocent Zero escaped, and Wahlberg realized the monster had overwhelming power, thinking it could destroy the academy in an instant, but he ran out of magical power and was about to fall to his death. Grant arrived to save him, realizing he was severely injured. He explained he would have died if Mash hadn't intervened, and Grant was surprised, thinking Mash was amazing. Time resumed in the arena, and everyone was confused because they had no idea what was happening, but they saw the monster approaching, so they panicked, realizing their lives were in danger. It destroyed the wall, launching debris towards the arena, and everyone thought they would die, but Lance imagined his sister asking for help, so he used his gravity spell to stop it. He mentioned his sister gave him strength, but Barrett heard this, realizing he was a weirdo. Margaret used his spell to destroy the debris. Everyone ran for their lives as the monster approached the arena, and Barrett tried attacking it with his spell, but a barrier protected it, so he became confused, wondering why his magic didn't work. Sid explained it was protected by a magic nullifying barrier, thinking an enemy mage created it, and revealed Anna was looking for the mage, so they decided to help him, knowing they didn't stand a chance as long as the barrier was active. Everyone tried to escape but realized they were trapped inside the arena because the barrier prevented them from leaving. Lance asked Margaret if he wasn't going to run, but he wanted to stay and fight, and Lance joined him, saying they must protect the other students. The monster reached the arena and stared at everyone, so they fell into despair, thinking they were doomed. It was about to finish them off but suddenly stopped, and they saw the monster struggling, realizing it was being pulled back. They wondered what was happening, knowing it couldn't be magic because the barrier was still protecting it, so they decided to take a closer look and couldn't believe their eyes as they saw Mash grabbing onto its chain, trying to stop it from killing everyone. The monster tried to resist, and it became a contest of strength as everyone realized Mash was playing tug-of-war with it. They started talking about Mash, knowing he couldn't use magic, so they thought he didn't deserve to be in the academy, but they saw Mash struggling, realizing he was putting everything on the line to protect them, so they started cheering for him, knowing he was their only hope. Finn was happy to see this because he never thought Mash would be accepted by everyone, realizing he was changing the rules of the world. He continued to struggle against the monster but heard everyone cheering, and this gave him the strength to overpower it, launching it into the air. Everyone became stunned as he hurled it with all his might, sending it crashing against the mountains and causing a massive explosion. Everyone celebrated, knowing Mash saved their lives, and Finn approached him, saying he was glad Mash defeated it. Lemon told him he was amazing and waited for him to kiss her, but he ate a cream puff instead, so she became upset, wondering why he wasn't making a move. After some time, Wahlberg woke up in the infirmary, where Grant told him Mash saved the day, and he was happy to hear this, thinking Mash embodied Adam's ideals. Sid and Barrett found the mage who created the barrier, planning to arrest him, but Anna used his spell and crushed him instead. Anna knew Sid had sided with Mash, thinking he had fallen, and mentioned he would never accept Mash, but Sid revealed he hadn't fully accepted him either but recognized Mash's strength, telling Anna he might have to accept it in the future. Days later, the public learned about Innocent Zero's attack, but authorities changed the story to stem chaos, telling everyone the Divine Visionaries drove him off, though they remained skeptical, and the Bureau of Magic hid the truth. Mash was bothered by what was happening, so he decided to go to the beach with his friends. It was their first time visiting a beach, so they decided to have fun, but Finn wondered if they should be doing this, knowing the realm was in chaos. Barrett didn't care, saying it was time to play, and he showed everyone a watermelon creature, but it suddenly attacked Mash, trying to suck his blood. Barrett revealed the creature was known to kill people, so Finn asked why he brought it to the beach, but he explained it was okay, reminding Finn they were always fighting for survival. Mash destroyed the creature, saying it was time to eat it, and it thanked him for putting it out of its misery, but Finn thought it looked disgusting. Mash and Barrett started playing as their friends talked about Mash, thinking things wouldn't end well for him because people would blame him for the incident. Lemon thought this was unfair because he didn't do anything wrong, and Wahlberg suddenly appeared, saying Mash's greatest trial was about to happen. They couldn't believe he was chilling at the beach, asking what he was doing there, so he told them summer only came once a year, and he wanted to enjoy the heat. He told them Mash would never find peace because Innocent Zero wanted to absorb him, explaining Innocent Zero could control space and time and had access to forbidden magic, so he believed he was the most powerful mage in history. He added Innocent Zero had 5 servants gifted with immense magical power, and the academy was no match for his forces, thinking they didn't stand a chance, but he believed Mash could lead them to victory. He mentioned Mash's powers were different because he was gifted with incredible strength, thinking this was the key to defeating the most powerful mags. Lemon was worried about him, thinking he could die, but he told her he would be fine because nobody could defeat his muscles. Finn noted he wasn't making sense, but Wahlberg admired his fighting spirit because he never backed down and was willing to do everything to protect the weak. He hoped Mash could change the world, saying he was counting on him, and Mash promised to defeat their enemies, saying he would graduate with his friends. Everyone was happy to hear this, but Barrett reminded him exams were coming up, and he was about to get expelled because of his poor academic performance, so he became nervous. Meanwhile, Brad told Burnedead about the exam, wondering if Mash would make it, but Burnedead thought he would be fine because he was a good person. Brad told him kindness had nothing to do with exams. Lemon revealed they gave Mash a mock exam, but his results were terrible. Lance mentioned he was never the brightest student but passed because of his practical exams. He hated studying, saying he wanted to go home, but Barrett promised to support him. Mash wondered if he was doing well academically, so he revealed he enjoyed studying, thinking it would help him become successful in the future, and Mash couldn't believe this, realizing he was the dumbest person in the group. Lance taught him about magical math, telling him to memorize formulas, and everyone lectured him about other subjects, but he couldn't handle the information, so his brain exploded, and he thought he wouldn't pass the exam. But his friends warned him he would be expelled if he failed, so he started studying, realizing his friends were watching him, but he suddenly ran away and escaped through the window. Finn thought they should chase him, but Lance advised against it, saying there was no point teaching someone who wasn't willing to learn. Finn decided to look for Mash anyway, searching around the academy but couldn't find him. As he walked in the woods, he realized Mash had buried himself in the ground, and he explained he wanted to return to the earth because he had given up on studying. But Finn reminded him he never backed down from a fight and promised to graduate with his friends, so he needed to focus on his studies. He thanked Finn for encouraging him, realizing he was being pathetic, and emerged from the ground, saying he would do his best. Mash returned to his friends, begging them to teach him again, so they helped him out, and he tried to learn as much as he could. It was time for the exam, and Mash saw the test paper but struggled to answer the questions, so he started crying. After the exam, Mash was depressed, thinking he would fail, so his friends tried to cheer him up. The teacher called his name, so he walked forward, and she told him he was a terrible student but gave him his exam result, saying he had improved. He realized he barely passed, and his friends were happy, but he said it was too easy, so they beat him up, telling him not to get cocky. At that moment, Tom told them to bamboo it, but Finn had no idea what he meant, so Lance explained everyone knew about Mash because he was mentioned in the newspaper. Tom told them to bamboo it again, and Barrett realized civilians were rushing to the campus because they wanted to get rid of Mash. They gathered outside the academy, telling the authorities to hand over Mash because he didn't deserve to be there, calling him an abomination. Lemon confronted them, explaining it didn't matter if Mash couldn't use magic because he was a great person, but they didn't accept her explanation, asking who she was. She told them she was his wife, but they didn't believe her, knowing she was too young to get married, so she explained she was his soulmate, saying she was destined to marry him, and they became upset, thinking she was messing with them. Barrett appeared, introducing himself as Mash's agent and explaining Mash had prepared a statement, but he suddenly insulted them, and they became angry, realizing he wasn't taking them seriously. Barrett and Lemon defended Mash, knowing he did nothing wrong, but a man called them criminals because they were defending a non-magic user and threw a stone that hit Lemon. Mash thought about facing the crowd, but Lance stopped him, telling him he needed to endure it because he would only make the situation worse. Lemon told them she was willing to take the punishment with Mash, saying he was a good person, but the man laughed, telling her she was being too emotional. He wanted to capture Mash to be famous, so he called her a sinner, and everyone started throwing stones, but Mash saved her, catching the stones before they hit her. The man thought he was an easy target because he couldn't use magic and used a spell that trapped Mash in a steel chamber, explaining it was indestructible, thinking Mash wouldn't escape. But he destroyed it with his bare hands, and the man couldn't believe it because he had used the chamber to trap giant monsters. Mash broke free, lifted the chamber, launched it into the air, and it fell on the man, trapping him inside. Mash knew the people didn't like him but promised to become the strongest in the realm and prove it was okay to be a non-magic user. Wahlberg suddenly arrived, explaining Mash's fate would be determined by the Divine Visionary Candidate exam, telling everyone to be patient until the result came out. He told Mash he was lucky to have true friends willing to speak on his behalf but explained they would get into trouble if he failed to become a Divine Visionary, so he needed to pass the exam. The exam was about to reach its final stage, and Mash was determined to succeed, saying he would defeat anyone who got in his way. This is where the video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.